Really nice. Right now it's 43 degrees and rainy in Salt Lake City.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: even though we don't have as much water this year, it doesn't mean water safety shouldn't be top of mind, and officials want life jackets to be available to everyone.
We are launching a statewide life jacket loaner stations ahead of the summer recreation season.
Ali O'Rulian with the Utah State Parks says people can check out life jackets before they head out on the water for free. They will have a variety of sizes available at 23 Utah State Parks that have a body of water. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: a new set of guidelines has been released by the American Academy of Pediatrics that highlights how to keep kids safe around water. One of the guidelines stresses the importance of kids wearing flotation devices around water and in boats if they aren't able to swim. More from ABC's Hannah Battah.
The statement advises parents not to rely on inflatable armbands or neck rings, commonly called floaties, because they can deflate and then offer little protection. It also suggests that they enter their children in swimming lessons after the age of 1, saying those infant floating programs haven't been shown to reduce drowning rates.
Since the pandemic, drowning has increased among children and even young adults. And water safety is a focus of Inside Sources all this week. Make sure you're listening each day at 10:30 as they go over different ways to be safe in water. Your money at this moment: the Dow is up 63 points to 49,590. Coming up, we still have weather and traffic affecting each other, including some snow sticking in Parley's Canyon. We'll check that next. KSL News Time, 9:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
This year, Utahns are celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country, Utah style. Everything from Utah's red rock deserts and blue skies to our snowy peaks and canyons are worth celebrating. As America marks this historic anniversary, we invite you to honor the stories that ground us, the history of the people who came before us, and the places that shape us. Celebrating with Utah style means looking out for your neighbors, sharing a meal, working hard, dreaming, innovating, and finding connections with the people who make Utah, Utah. It's our land, our communities. It's our way of showing up for something bigger than ourselves. So raise a glass or a dirty soda and join us in celebrating our place in the American story. Find ways to celebrate and commemorate with your community this summer at america250.utah.gov.
Is your financial advisor managing your risk or just a spreadsheet? Hi, I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. Many financial advisors rely on target date funds, which are one-size-fits-all portfolios that don't know your name, your family, or your goals. And that passive management can leave you dangerously exposed. At Trajan, we look at the whole picture, not just the stocks everyone else buys, but the private market opportunities most advisors ignore. And as fiduciaries, we build a strategy around you, coordinating your investments, tax strategy, and estate into one cohesive plan. Your financial life deserves more than just a generic portfolio. Real planning isn't a stack of statements. It's the confidence of knowing where your income will come from for the next 30 years. Good enough isn't good enough for your family. It's time for a change. Schedule your complimentary consultation today. Call 855-TRAJAN-1. That's 855-TRAJAN-1.
Advisory services through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Private equity investments require accreditation. Other services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures at TrajanWealth.com.
At Cadillac, we believe true luxury isn't just about craftsmanship. It's about innovation. That's why we created a luxury line of electric SUVs, including the best-selling Lyriq, the all-new Optic, and the Escalade IQ, the first fully electric full-sized SUV. You can travel over 400 miles on a single charge. So come get your dream car and see exactly why driving a Cadillac is like no other driving experience. Visit Jerry Seiner Cadillac and experience the Seiner difference today.
911 coming. exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but I've already...
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
The podcast, Cold, has gone deep on these kinds of stories.
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
Clearly, something happened on that couch because he cleaned it.
Find and follow Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Let's get another update from Cormac Bone.
Normal delays on I-15 northbound around the point of the mountain from Timpanogos Highway up to Bangerter Highway. We also see a little bit of northbound slowing at 13th South. And southbound I-15 seeing some irregular delays as well from the north interchange down past Warm Springs Road. Where the delays are irregular on southbound I-15, that's in Draper from 114 South all the way down past Bangerter Highway. As far as we can tell, it's just the merging of Bangerter Highway and the wet roads compounding those heavier delays as you approach the point of the mountain on South 15. We plan and store water for the future, but this year needs extra care. Jordan Valley Water asks you to water twice a week or less. Life is better with water. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, cloudy with rain showers, highs in the mid-50s. Though this is the coldest of the next 7 days. Temperatures only go up from here, but we're going to have some lows hitting the 20s. That's not pleasant. Right now it's 45 degrees with some scattered showers. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, I got up this morning to snow and rain all the way to work, so I wasn't thinking about saving the Great Salt Lake. I was thinking about saving myself on those highways. But it is a problem. It's still a problem, and it's certainly a regional problem, and the implications for the lake's decline are becoming now national and international, and that's according to a group called Grow the Flow, not Slow the Flow, which is advocating across the world to support the Great Salt Lake. And one of the ways they hope to do that is by partnering with Harvard Business School on a case study that students worldwide have been working on.
So it's really interesting to me, and this is a Deseret News article that I was looking at. They were back, the members of Grow the Flow were back in Boston, right? to go present at the Harvard Business School. But what was interesting to me is they were co-presenting with a woman who has been researching this, and she's actually a researcher with, let's see, give me a second, the National Bureau of Economic Research. So there's a specific organization, right, focused on economic research. And so she's been looking at this. Her name is Rebecca Henderson. She's been looking at this for a little while. So she's done multiple trips to Salt Lake. She's interviewed a bunch of stakeholders, and she's taught the class now a couple of times. But what she's doing is creating this case study. And then what will happen is this case study will be published. It's coming out in the next few weeks, I understand. And then you can have like 1,000 different business schools who can say, I can use this case study to teach MBA students, and they will actually work on a real world problem, which is the Great Salt Lake.
Yeah, and she kind of starts with the premise that if we lose the Great Salt Lake, the consequences could be horrific, but also with an idea that there's got to be a way to save it, and there's got to be some ideas, and there's some minds out there somewhere that might come up with an idea to do that. So it's a good news, bad news situation where it's got to be done, and it can be done.
So she read an op-ed in the New York Times in 2023, actually, that was titled, "I am haunted by what I have seen at the Great Salt Lake." So she was like, okay, my research is really ecological degradation and economics, she said. And so she was really intrigued by this Great Salt Lake problem. And for one thing, of course, it's a really big deal, but there's financial costs both to saving the Great Salt Lake, but also what happens if the Great Salt Lake dries up, right?
Yeah, and of course we all know here that the consequences of that could be devastating. I think it would probably, I don't want to overstate it, but could make the Salt Lake Valley far different than it is today.
Yeah.
It would make our mountains far different than they are because we rely on that lake effect to get snow. And so, and plus, I think a bigger problem that some people don't recognize is as the lake level recedes, more and more chemicals, bad chemicals, really problematic chemicals get in the air, which could cause a very toxic environment here along the whole Wasatch, or it's actually the Wasatch Front.
Right, we know the toxic dust that can be released, and then of course the economic impacts to jobs and to our weather, as you mentioned. So it's interesting, I think, that Professor Henderson said that one of the things is that we know that technology and the resources exist to fix it. We know the impacts are going to be very severe and very long-lasting if we don't fix it, and yet somehow we're not acting at the speed and the scale required. But one of the reasons she also is excited by this is she says Utah has one of the highest levels of social cohesion in the United States. So that she cited the state's one-party rule, that there's bipartisan political support for the lake, and then financial commitment, including from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, one thing that concerns me about all of this, and notwithstanding what's going on right this second outside our window, is that all the great minds in the world can't create water, or maybe they can. I don't know how you get rain out of the air. We're mostly thinking about how to direct more of the current water that's being diverted from the Great Salt Lake back into the Great Salt Lake. Ranching, farming, agriculture. I guess that's sort of the same thing. And even communities which are continuing to grow along the Great Salt Lake that are taking water. How can we get more water into the lake? Some groups, including the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, have donated huge water shares to the Great Salt Lake. But is it going to be enough? And this year, I think we talked just the other day, last week or so, Holly, that the Great Salt Lake may have reached its peak for the year. It's high water mark for the year.
So I saw an article this morning that said it's probably not going to set a record low, but it's certainly going to be down in record low territory this year, the Great Salt Lake.
Right.
So here's one of the things that's interesting to me too. So case studies are, I think they're really valid and important, and I worked on them in my graduate studies as well. But here you have MBA students, Masters of Business Administration students from Harvard and hopefully elsewhere who start to put their brains to this and say, okay, what could happen? So you know that she's taught, I told you, multiple classes. She's taught it 3 times now. And she wants to have feedback from the students. And so they were asking questions like, well, are people just in denial? Like the lake's not actually going to go away? Or why doesn't the government just swoop in to fix it? Or what about defending the rights of regional farmers? But what's really interesting to me is the response from these future business leaders. She said they're getting towards the end, and somebody in the class said, I think what we need is love. For real.
Which may be true. And to answer follow up on a thing that you just mentioned, she talked about inactivity. What if we do nothing at all?
Yeah.
And she said, well, do you want to find out if being showered with arsenic and cadmium and mercury on a regular basis, have these go into your land and what that grows your food, has significant negative effects? And by the way,
I choose not to find that out. Thank you.
This is one of the great wonders of the world, and it's providing half of the water and precipitation for the region. Like we said, the lake effect snow. Yeah, it's not just a big goofy body of water. It's our environment.
Right, that's exactly right. And no, thank you. I don't want to be showered by arsenic.
Cadmium and mercury.
I'll pass on that. But I think it's really interesting. She said, with the all we need is love, right? I feel like there's a song there, something like that. But one of the things she said is, yeah, I know. One of the things she said is, look, I'm taking this seriously because it's got to be more than just, okay, well, everybody needs to do their part. She said what she thinks really is going to be fundamental at the end of the day is saying we have a sacred duty to our children, and that it really does come from a place of love. But there's also urgency. We have like 5 years.
Yeah, and if we don't do something within those 5 years, we could be in serious trouble. And again, we have these moments like today where you have some rain and people are like, oh, I think we're going to be okay. You have one year out of 5 where we have this huge snowfall, like, hey, we're going to be okay. Last year's winter should get everybody on guard that we are in serious trouble, because that's the way things are going to be.
Remember, they're calling it the NOPAC, the year of the NOPAC, because we don't have snow.
Snowpack, right, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So speaking of the Great Salt Lake, one of the big concerns, of course, is that folks are worried about the data center in Box Elder County diverting water that could be needed for the lake. So coming up on Inside Sources, we're going to take a look at how people in other states are dealing with data centers. So stay with us for that.
I'm Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Ever wonder why I say Arctic Spa, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate? Well, we are the world's most northern manufacturer of spas, and we are built for the cold climates. We are just more heavy duty. It is commercial grade, but built for your house. We use fiberglass instead of ABS plastic. We use thicker, stronger, better insulating covers. We use our heat lock insulation to utilize the excess heat from the motors to help heat the water and protect the equipment. Arctic Spas are designed to last longer and be less expensive for you over the long term. Arctic Spas are known for their water care automation with our automatic saltwater system and our automatic pH control. We have it, no one else does. This makes it easier and more enjoyable for you to own an Arctic Spa. Find the perfect Arctic Spa for you at arcticspasutah.com or visit any of our 3 stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. That's why we say Arctic Spa, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
I love days like these at the pool, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. I'm ready to make a splash with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza. Skyrizi is a prescription-only injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. At 4 months, most people saw 90% clearer skin when measured from head to toe, and many were even 100% plaque-free. People also saw significant improvement in psoriasis symptoms of pain, redness, itching, and burning.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Now there's nothing on my skin thanks to Skyrizi, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Trying to make sense of the markets? Looking to diversify out of all the craziness? Thinking about tangible assets like precious metals? Listen to The Gold Show with Alan Johnson right here on KSL at 3 p.m. Sunday afternoons. Stay up to date on retirement trends, how the IRA rollover process works, and why investors are turning to physical gold. Alan is a national talk show host with decades of experience in the markets. Tune in for Alan's Insights and The Gold Show this Sunday afternoon at 3. The energy, the roar, moments you'll always remember. Next season, Jaren Jackson Jr. is hunting blocks. Laurie Markkinen is getting buckets. And Ace is just getting started. Don't just watch Jazz basketball. Experience every moment. 2026-27 season tickets are on sale now. Full and half-season packages available. Plus exclusive benefits like arena discounts and player events. Are you in? Join the climb today. UtahJazz.com or call 801-355-DUNK.
If you've got a honey-do list with electrical, plumbing, heating, or air conditioning projects on it, Any Hour Services can help. Call Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air. AnyHourServices.com.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things.
I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol.
If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
911, tell me exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
And I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast
cold. Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know. Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
Inside Sources.
Well, we've talked a lot about the data center in Box Elder County. It continues to make the news here in Utah, but around the country, data centers have been big news. And I'm looking at an article that was published Saturday in the Deseret News, Holly, written by Art Raymond, the industry and technology reporter, who reports that between 2023 and 2025, around the country, 17 data centers were canceled and 18 were delayed due to opposition. That's 35 data centers.
Yeah, so it's not unusual. In fact, we've talked about the recent polling on these data centers, and it's something like 71% are opposed to them.
Yeah.
Right. And that 49%, almost half, are strongly opposed. There's only 7% who are strongly in favor of data centers in their area. I just think it's interesting, right? They're kind of exploding. Utah is not the state at all by any stretch that has the highest number of these centers. Texas is one. They have hundreds. The top 3 states have hundreds of data centers in them right now. I think we have 45, something like that right now. But it's a really, I think it's a really strong reaction across the country.
I think Utah's data center, if built, would be one of the biggest ones in the country, maybe the biggest one. I mean, and that's one of the things that's concerning. I'm looking at a lot of the opposition, and the number one reason why people are concerned about these nationwide is noise, lights, and quality of life. 51% of people are concerned about that as data centers come into their communities. That's the number one problem that people have.
I think one of the things to note, too, is that the people who are opposed to these are trying a variety of strategies to slow them down. There's legislation, there's voter initiatives, there's referenda. We know that's happening up in Box Elder County. People in opposition have applied to put the resolutions that the Box Elder County Commission voted on up to the voters in the fall. I think opposition has exploded, too. And one tracking site says that they have seen a sharp increase, nearly tenfold in the last year in the opposition.
Yeah, I wonder what would happen if, you hate to even use the words ballot initiative anymore in Utah, but I wonder what would happen if we put this before the voters, because the opposition statewide, not just in Box Elder County, in that part of the state, is absolutely something like 70% against it.
We're seeing pushback at different sites across the state for sure. But again, it's interesting too that we've got this conversation about we need to have these data centers not only for artificial intelligence, but we need them for national security, right? That's one of the things that I'm hearing the most of. Well, look, all other things aside, we need this for national security because China's winning the AI race. China this, China that. And it's, I think it's a fair argument to be made that these data centers can provide help in national security issues, especially when it comes to AI in China. But there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
And I think the whole national security is the biggest reason that's being shoved down people's throats, or whatever you want to say, as a reason to put these in. It's a matter of national security. And even the sort of the military involvement in it, the military.
It's MIDA.
MIDA, right? Is
Military Installation Development Agency in Utah.
They're making it seem like it's a military installation. And I guess in some respects it is, but it's a data center. But if you call it a military installation, people are more concerned when you think, we're in a war, or even if it's a technology war with China, we want to get ahead of the game.
Yeah. So one of the you can imagine the top complaints. This is nationwide, so not specific to Utah, which I think one of the top complaints here is water. But the very top one, with 51% of people answering this survey from Data Center Watch, noise, light, quality of life. You mentioned that. 43%. Number 2, land use and place preservation. And we've already heard from our friend Darren Perry, that there are Native American graves up there in that area. And then the third one, nationwide, water use.
Yeah, and so it's interesting, maybe coincidental or maybe not, that we're talking about this immediately after we're talking about the Great Salt Lake,
right?
Because the Great Salt Lake receives water from that particular part of the state. You can't avoid that. The Bear River Valley, Box Elder County, and Weber County feed water into the Great Salt Lake from the north, and that's a huge source of water for the Great Salt Lake. So we're talking about two different competing problems going on in the state. One is we need a data center, and two is we need water in the Great Salt Lake. It seems to me, after looking at listening to the reports from the previous segment, that's a very significant concern, is not letting that lake dry up.
It is a concern. It is a concern. So with other concerns too, we're talking about infrastructure and traffic. We've barely even talked about that, right? So what type of infrastructure do you need for a facility that may have 2,000 jobs there, right? What about the traffic? Not only for construction, but then long term. Certainly there's energy and grid capacity, although one of the issues that they're saying with Box Elder County is they'll create their own energy, right? And then that messaging, as we've mentioned, has changed from it's going to be all natural gas to maybe it's going to be a combination with renewables, et cetera.
Yeah, and I still can't believe the amount of energy that it's supposed to take up, which is double what the entire state uses right now. I frankly find that almost impossible to believe.
Right,
But if that's
it's
what
hard
they
to
say,
wrap
that's
your
what
head
they
around.
say.
Yeah.
I mean, so where are you going to pull natural gas out of a pipeline? What's going to be on the other end of the pipeline for the rest of the people to, you're taking it out of the top end.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? I mean, that's frightening. And you mentioned infrastructure. So Utah's footprint that for the ground is something like 40,000 acres, which seems excessive. Nonetheless, they're talking about building. The exit from the freeway right there is small. That's going to have to be extended. They're going to have some infrastructure put in there. For example, facilities for the workers, for the 2,000 people, so they don't have to drive clear to Tremont to get a sandwich or something.
Oh yeah.
There's going to be a lot that goes on
Housing,
there in that area.
schools.
That's going to exactly, and that's you're almost creating a mini community up there just to support this data center.
Yeah. So we know that the billionaire investor Kevin O'Leary has blamed
China
opposition. Yes. Of being Chinese agents. Well, he's doubling down on that and says he has proof from Form 990 from the IRS that he's going to make public. Actually, those forms are already public, but in any case, he says he has proof. And of course, we had on our show one of the people that he accused of being a Chinese agent and asked her directly, and she said, no, I am not.
Not a Chinese agent.
Not a Chinese agent.
Just don't like the program.
And they don't pay me. Yeah. So look, there definitely are people who are behind it. So we know the governor is behind it. We know that there are multiple people in leadership who are in favor of this. We also know there's some who are like, let's slow it down at least a little. And then we've got former Representative Jason Chaffetz, who's talking about running for governor in 2 years. He posted a long thing on social media over the weekend talking about why he does support it and thinks it's great. But again, you also have this lack of trust between members of the public and elected officials, and saying we're going to do it anyway, even though we know 3/4 of you are opposed to this, it becomes really problematic.
That's the problem here in Utah. It's pointed out here as well as any place. And with all respect to the county commission up there in Box Elder County, who I thought were very forthcoming with us and even agreed to talk to us, Lee Perry did. I think the citizens were completely, or at least partially, caught off guard by that whole thing and said, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
They go to this big public rally and the commission votes unanimously to go ahead with the plan, at least to the extent that they were sort of almost like a resolution at that point. And now the pushback has been just huge. And it's not from China. It's not from back east. It's a lot of Utahns. And that's who's being pulled are Utahns, and specifically northern part of the state Utahns who are opposed to it. So I don't know how you can say that's influenced by some other government or entity.
Well, we did our own unofficial polling with our show, and one of the comments that we had, and there were lots of comments on it when we put the question out last week, but one of the comments that was repeated over and over was this: it doesn't matter what we say, the elected officials are going to do it anyway.
I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I think this is one of those things, just like we did with, forbid me for saying this, the redistricting. They were going to do it anyway. Well, look what happened. I mean, maybe it's going to take some court somewhere to say time out. Let's
it's
put
interesting.
the brakes to this.
There has been national legislation introduced. I think Bernie Sanders and AOC introduced it to put a moratorium on all data centers being built across the country. So far, that doesn't have any traction. But it's not just a Utah issue. Their opposition is nationwide.
Absolutely. When we come back after the break, it's not quite the threat to end an entire civilization as we've heard in the past, but the president's new threats against Iran, if they don't give him adequate peace deal, is very serious. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
It's 9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, a positive update on the Wild Horse Fire in Millard County. Utah Fire Info says it is now 90% contained. The rain we're getting today should also help. It grew to 7,025 acres, and officials believe it was started by lightning. A large fire at a city park in St. George is believed to have been human-caused. It was near the Dixie Convention Center and burned about 2 acres. Some witnesses say it shot smoke and flames hundreds of feet in the air. A freeway off-ramp nearby was closed out of caution. No one was injured, and no buildings were damaged. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Former FBI Director James Comey maintains he did nothing wrong after he was indicted by the Justice Department. Comey's daughter has also filed a lawsuit against the DOJ for firing her after the indictment. On Good Morning America, Comey says he couldn't talk about the particulars of both cases, but maintains his innocence.
Well, we can avail ourselves of the last healthy part of the American government, which is the federal judiciary. So my daughter is suing them to establish that you cannot fire a career person without cause. And obviously I'm defending myself successfully in the last case, and I have this ongoing one in North Carolina about seashells.
Officials say he threatened the president, posting 8647, referring to now how number 47, President Trump, should be 86th or removed. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 83 points to 49,443. Coming up, rain and snow have affected the drive this morning. We'll check weather and traffic next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Old Faithful, Mammoth Hot Springs, wolves in the Lamar Valley. This summer, experience America's first national park the way the locals do, with expert guides from See Yellowstone. After a day of adventure, unwind at the historic Three Bear Lodge. Then enjoy a signature prime rib dinner or wake up to our famous breakfast buffet, all included in your package. Skip the stress. We'll handle everything. Book your Yellowstone adventure today at SeeYellowstone.com.
This year, Utahns are celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country, Utah style, because everything from Utah's red rock deserts to our snowy peaks are worth celebrating. It's our land, our communities. Join us in celebrating our country with Utah style. Join the statewide celebration. Get involved at america250.utah.gov. Brought to you by America First Credit Union.
Serenity now! Serenity now!
Are you okay?
Okay. Gas is up. Groceries are up. Everything up, up, up.
Not at Strong Volkswagen.
Strong Volkswagen.
Yeah, purchase any vehicle with a dime. One dime down.
What is the deal with dimes?
One dime down. Plus, oil changes at just $59.95 at Strong Volkswagen.
Just $59.95?
Or lease a new 2026 Jetta S. Just $235 a month. $235.
Fun fact, new Jetta get up to 42 mpg.
Even new all-wheel drive Atlas. Just $432 a month. $432.
And you get a lifetime warranty. Lifetime. But my own mother won't loan me money.
You're not getting the money! It's okay. If you got a job and a dime, you ride, mister.
This is great. I'm back. back, baby! During Volkswagen Driver Days.
At Strong Volkswagen. For over 70 years, Strong Volkswagen.
Located downtown.
StrongVW.com.
StrongVW.com. For details, call 801-596-2200.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Thanks. Is oil marked down?
Save up to $15 when you buy 5 quarts and a filter.
And fuel treatment?
2 for $9 on Lucas.
Brake pads?
Marked down to free.
Free?
Get free Duralast brake pads when you buy 2 Duralast rotors.
That's several markdowns.
For many more miles.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Got any markdowns on brakes?
We mark Duralast brake pads down to free.
Free Duralast brake pads?
When you buy 2 rotors.
Can I get Duralast Gold pads for free?
With 2 Duralast Gold rotors, and there's a lifetime warranty on brake pads.
That's a huge markdown for so many miles.
Save on brakes and more during Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. Here's Cormac Bone.
Still seeing those southbound I-15 delays in Draper. It's from 123rd south and reaches down past Bangerter Highway toward the point of the mountain. They've eased up in volume, but it's still pretty slow going through there. Otherwise, though, I-15 and northbound, clean and clear from Provo all the way to Salt Lake. No delays on I-15 through Weber and Davis counties either. We do still see normal delays in Lehigh, eastbound on 2100 north, scattered from 3600 west all the way over to I-15. The local service you can trust with the financial solutions you need. Cyprus Credit Union is there for every step of the way. Learn more at cypruscu.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, it's getting a lot warmer after today. Tomorrow, highs in the mid-60s. Wednesday, the 70s. By Saturday, a Memorial Day weekend, into the 80s. Loving that. But we got to get through the rain and cold today. High of only 56 coming. Right now, it is 45 degrees and raining. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, according to some reports that have come out today, Iran has a new proposal to end the war, but there's some concern, again, that it may not be enough for President Donald Trump. But what he has said is this. He warned that, quote, the clock is ticking as talks to bring the war have stalled. And he says this also, they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them, he wrote on his Truth Social platform. And again, quote, time is of the essence.
So I am curious what will be enough for the president, but even just this back and forth of threat to say there's not anything left. I mean, how is that different from complete obliteration?
Right, of the entire civilization.
Right. So we're going to get an update from News Nation's Robert Sherman.
It's a consequential time here in the Middle East with both the United States and Iran saying they fundamentally do not trust one another, still remain apart on some of these key issues here. And now we approach a watershed moment where the president is reportedly expected to meet with his national security team tomorrow in order to determine what the course of action forward is. He has left the door open in recent comments for military action to resume. He does want a deal from Iran, but he's emphasizing in a new warning to Tehran that they're running out of time. This is the statement that he put out on that, saying for Iran, the clock is ticking, and they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. Time is of the essence. Simultaneously, you've had the president picking up the phone and speaking with key allies. That includes Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, reportedly to discuss the recent visit to China, but also the future forward when it comes to Iran. New tensions have also been injected into the region after we saw the UAE announcing 3 drones entered their airspace from the west. 2 of them were intercepted, but 1 of them struck near a nuclear facility. The UN's nuclear watchdog says there were no injuries, no change in nuclear levels. And while the UAE has not directly blamed Iran for this, they've certainly hinted at it, or some of their proxies as well. For the time being, the U.S. is maintaining pressure on Tehran through that U.S. naval blockade, which has now turned around 81 ships in hopes of pushing Iran to the negotiating table and striking a deal. but certainly a lot of uncertainty as we approach a new week here.
Right, don't hit a nuclear facility. I mean, that could be devastating. And so 3 drones going in, they're not sure who they're from. Well, 2 guesses, but Iran are one of their supporters. But in terms of coming into United Arab Emirates and being 2 of them being intercepted and one of them hitting near a nuclear facility, that's pretty frightening. Here's one thing that I think is a holdup that Iran. Every time I've seen an offer of compromise from Iran, it includes reparations. Reparations for the United States for the damage they caused. I don't see any way that Trump can ever agree to that.
I think one of the other things that I've seen as well, or at least have heard on news reports, is that Iran absolutely refuses to promise to give up enriched uranium. And the president is like, they both have red lines on that issue, but opposite sides of the issue. And it's one of the sticking points where it's just like, absolutely not. We won't give it up. And President Trump saying, absolutely not. We won't stop until you do give it up.
I've seen some discussion about whether it could be could be a time limit on that, a 10-year give it up or a 20-year give it up. I mean, obviously we want to get something in place where there's a total ban, but I don't see that happening either. And I don't know. This is just not going anywhere fast, and these continued threats from the administration saying time is of the essence. You're going to be obliterated. We're going to get rid of an entire civilization. You better get moving fast. There won't be anything left of them. Again, at some point, does he actually carry these out? Is that something that's really going to happen, or does he continue to cave at the last second and say, okay, we've got some agreement in place? And what I don't, and I guess we could talk about this for weeks. What I don't know is what could possibly be a resolution at this point that would satisfy both countries or equally dissatisfy them to the point where, okay, let's come to an agreement.
Well, I think that's part of the whole picture, right? And so I think if you remember our discussions in the early days of the war, which now is, I think, entering its 12th week or something, I don't know, but it's gone on for a little while. But in the early days, it was like, this is going to be 3 to 5 days. We're going to be in, we're going to be out. It's going to be done. And it hasn't been that way. And I saw a report this morning, a news report saying that 70% of Iran's weapon stock is still available to them to use. We haven't destroyed it. We haven't taken it out. And this is just, we're talking missiles and stuff. We're not even talking about the nuclear.
There was some discussion with respect to Trump's visit with China last week that he had an agreement with them. He said that they would stop giving weapons to Iran. And I don't know how much they supply. I know Russia does. But he thought that China had agreed not to supply Iran anymore. Whether that's occurred or not, I don't know. But if they still have 70% of their stockpile, that's pretty frightening. After all they've been through so far, they've only used 30%.
Which is, I think, one of the reasons they're still really defiant, right? So we went in with an idea for regime change, but now we have the son who's younger and more hardened even than his dad. And we've talked about how people on the ground in Iran they're kind of losing hope that this is going to be the change that they were anticipating. And so they're like, yeah, this wasn't a good idea. But now we're engaged and we're involved. I'll say this is a brand new article from just an hour ago that Reuters is reporting that Pakistan has sent 8,000 troops, a squadron of fighter jets, and an air defense system to Saudi Arabia, wrapping up military cooperation with Saudi.
Ouch.
Yeah, well,
because Pakistan's been one of the mediators in this, I thought.
All right, so
the countries that's trying to help us get this resolved. Well, here's what we think we know about Iran's latest offer to settle it, and this is from Tasman News Agency, which is a semi-official Iran news agency. They're saying that they want a halt to the U.S. naval blockade in Iranian ports, obviously, guarantees of no further attacks on Iran, and they also want Israel to be part of this program. But like I said before, a demand for compensation for war damage and an emphasis on Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, I don't see how you could call it a win for our military or our leaders to say, okay, we agreed to do this, this, and this, and settle this conflict, because it was effectively we got nothing out of it.
Exactly. So I don't know how it's going to end up in the long run, but in the short run, right now, it looks like the ceasefire is shaky at best. In fact, I think last week it was the president himself who said the ceasefire was on life support.
Massive life support.
Yeah.
So, but another thing, and I know we're running short on time, is I don't see any proposal for continued talks. I don't see a meeting with Pakistani officials or with someone else, the mediators that have been involved in this, like, hey, let's meet Thursday and let's give it one more shot. I mean, it doesn't seem like, it seems like all we're doing is sending volleys out. Hey, we'll take this. Well, we won't. That's completely unacceptable.
So this is a New York Times from just a couple of hours ago, reminding us that the Pentagon is planning for the possibility of Operation Epic Fury. That was paused when the president declared a ceasefire last month, but they're anticipating that they're going to start it again. And it's the United States and Israel who are engaged in what they call intense preparations, the largest since the ceasefire took effect for the possible resumption of attacks against Iran.
And the ceasefire has been anything but. Let's face it.
It's been a little shaky.
Right, yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about phones again and connections. So are phones stopping you from making connections, or are they helping you make better connections? As with all things, there's a balance. We're going to go in depth on phones and connection next.
I'm Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. Don't face the IRS alone.
I was self-employed, and I got behind on my taxes. And then 1 year became 2 years and 3 years, and $116,535.47 to be exact. It just became overwhelming. Finally, I went to another tax company, and they were more interested in how good they were than helping me. I heard about Jordan and talking to the other people who'd done and been in the same situations that I was in, and their tax problems seemed just like mine. And so I went to Jordan, and it was amazing. They were able to negotiate it down to $5,200, and life became wonderful to me.
Don't face the IRS alone. You need a tax attorney that's not afraid to fight for you. Visit endtaxworry.com to schedule your free consultation. That's endtaxworry.com.
I will be forever grateful.
Primary Children's Hospital has given so much to Utah kids and needs your help to keep the healing going strong.
It's always very welcoming, and just knowing that I have people there that are gonna help me and be with me like every step of the way, people I can trust.
Listen to KSL News Radio on Thursday, June 4th to hear inspiring stories from children and their families as they receive world-class care at this incredible hospital.
Once we got here, we knew, okay, Max is going to be okay.
Donate now by visiting kslkids.com or text the word SMILE to 57500. Brought to you by J&J Garden Center and the Utah Hyundai dealers. On behalf of all of us at KSL News Radio, we thank you.
There's no doubt about it. This is the time of year when we all start focusing on that perfectly grilled steak. Now, some of us are pretty good. Some of us are just okay at doing that ourselves in the backyard. If you're really looking for that perfection in steaks, it's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And now with Memorial Day just around the corner, a lot of graduation parties are going on, special events, birthdays, you name it. It's time for you to make that reservation at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Now, obviously, we talk about steaks and how wonderful they are there, but they have so much more. The seafood, the poultry dishes, the side dishes, the desserts, and it's served to perfection. We have two locations. There's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Hotel Park City, and also Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City at 275 Southwest Temple. It's the perfect steak, and it's waiting for you now at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
If your water heater's over 10 to 15 years old, congratulations. You've beat the average. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I love hearing stories of people having water heaters that are really old and they're still doing their job. Unfortunately, most of us won't be that lucky. And when water heaters fail, it's usually in spectacularly inconvenient fashion. Whether it's an unexpected cold shower when we're already running late for work, or worse yet, coming home to a flooded basement, it's never fun. If you'd like to look into replacing your water heater before it fails, Any Hour Services is having a sale for any homeowners listening. Whether you're looking for a new tanked water heater or you want to see what upgrading to a tankless would cost, the plumbers at Any Hour Services can show you what options are available. And right now, you can save $400 on a tanked water heater or $1,200 on a tankless. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services today and schedule your free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses, plus free delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number. To a good life sleep.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Got any markdowns on brakes?
We mark Duralast brake pads down to free.
Free Duralast brake pads?
When you buy 2 rotors.
Can I get Duralast Gold pads for free?
With 2 Duralast Gold rotors, and there's a lifetime warranty on brake pads.
That's a huge markdown for so many miles.
Save on brakes and more during Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
When American troops withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021, thousands of evacuees fled to the U.S. for protection. Many Americans welcomed their new neighbors.
For the last week, the governor tells me his office has been getting calls nonstop with Utahns wanting to help.
When we saw the pictures and the videos coming out of Afghanistan, we prayed to be able to help them.
But then, what happened? Listen to Stranger Becomes Neighbor, wherever you get your podcasts.
And expanded Inside Sources.
When you run out of things to do, or you're standing in line, if you're waiting at a stoplight, what's the first thing you do? If you're like most people.
Yeah, kind of pull out my phone and see what's going on, if I missed anything.
That's right. You probably pull out your phone. Even if you don't have any notification, your phone gives you something to do, something to pass the time, because we can't even wait at a stoplight anymore.
Yeah. So that brings us to our next guest. We have Samuel Abrams, professor of politics at Sarah Lawrence College and a Deseret News contributor. Professor Abrams, thanks for joining us this morning.
Uh-oh.
We thought we had him.
We thought we had him.
He must have a phone call coming through.
Yeah, he must have a phone call. Okay, well, while we're getting Sam on the phone, again, I wanted to tell you about how you can use phones for good and connectivity. And I had a phone call. It was a video phone call with my grandson yesterday. He's 3. He's just barely 3. So over the weekend, I was with him, and he says, I need tacos. And he's very clear. I need tacos. Like, okay, well, let's go get tacos.
There you go, right.
His mom, my daughter, told me, she goes, he's never had tacos in his life. But we went and we had tacos. So I ordered them a book that I had read to my own kids called Dragons Love Tacos. So yesterday it arrived, and they called me on FaceTime so that I could see him as they unboxed the book, right? And then that my daughter reads it to him. And so she starts, Dragons Love Tacos, and he says, no, they don't.
Did he like them?
And then we go through the book. Yes, he liked tacos. Then we go through the book, and then he told his mom, read it again. And so she read it again while we're still on the line. And then we hung up, and then he had his dad read it again. And so his dad said, Dragons love tacos. And he says, no, they don't. They love chicken.
There you go. Well, we do have our guest. I think he's now on. We have Samuel Abrams, professor of politics at Sarah Lawrence College and a Deseret News contributor. Professor Abrams, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. And my kids do not love that taco book, but we do read it, just so you know.
So funny. Okay. Well, look, you wrote an article titled The Good Old Days Are Right Now, If We Can See Them. So tell us your basic premise on writing this article.
So I heard the lead in, and I don't know why you couldn't hear me. And the basic premise I'll pick up is from what you were saying. Put your phone down. Take a minute. Daydream. Think. Get some perspective. The premise for me really was I was at a Kentucky Derby party. This is not something I've really cared too much about, the horse racing stuff. It's fun. And I put my phone down, and I was schmoozing, and I was watching my kids and the wife and all of that. wonderful stuff. And I sat down for a minute and realized, oh, my phone is not with me. Shoot, let me go up and get it. And I paused and looked around the room and said, this is great. Why am I jumping for the phone? Why do I need this thing in my hand? This is amazing. Everyone's happy. My family is here. My friends are here. It doesn't get much better than that. And I've watched as a teacher, and as you described, everyone grabs their phone all the time. They're always distracted, and they're forgetting to live in the moment and to recognize the joy and, blessings we have right here, right now in front of us.
Why do we do that, Professor? I mean, I know it's a rhetorical question, but what is it? I mean, we get someplace, we sit down, and the first thing you do is, where's my phone? I left it in the car. I left it in my. It's not on. I had it on vibrate. I mean, why do we do that?
Well, there are many, many theories, and I'm going to let all the listeners off the hook and say it's not our fault. We do like phones. We really do. And we love the connectedness. The article talks about the fact that, my gosh, when I went to college, I'd have to wait till evening to call my mother to say hi and check in. Now, I remember a number of years ago, I FaceTimed her from the top of Machu Picchu. That was amazing. And the connections we can have are wonderful. So these are devices that we want, we have, we need. They're themselves very, very useful. The problem is that all the apps and all of the other, new tech in them are designed to addict us, to attract us. I know people with PhDs in psychology, sociology, and so on, who work at a lot of these tech companies. I'm sure I'm now going to get a lot of hate for this, but the idea here is that they're designed to grab your attention. It's how they monetize. It's how they make money. I would suggest to any of your listeners, go to one of your feeds on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be. See how much of it is actually your friends at this point. When Facebook started, it was all my friends, and it was a really cool technology. I'm now less likely to use it because most of my feed is not my friends. It's other groups that I'm not all that interested in, ads, interests that I sort of have but aren't really mine anymore. This technology is really designed to sap our attention and to take our attention, to hit us with dopamine over and over and over again. So I would argue it's not as much of our fault as we like. It's designed to be addictive, and it's doing it to us.
I was intrigued by your commentary on taking photos, right? That's always been something important for my family, it feels like. And yet I have also seen, I have been to the Louvre, I've seen the Mona Lisa, and the number one thing you see is everybody's out there with their phones taking a picture, right, rather than standing there and actually being able to absorb the artwork. I've seen it at concerts too, where people are watching the concert through their phone rather than watching the concert. So talk to us about pictures.
Yes. And I'm mixed. I'm a dad. So many of our listeners are dads and moms, and we want to take our photos. We want to capture everything. And the thing that I'm desperately trying to do, and failing quite a bit actually, but I'm happy to call myself out on it, is take fewer pictures. This is what lots of people notice. So you mentioned the Louvre, right? The Louvre has a particular set of smells to it, believe it or not. Ask people to describe what it smells like going from salon to salon. Ask them what it feels like to turn the corner off the Grand Salon to see the Mona Lisa. Most of them won't be able to tell you. They're too busy paying attention to the phone. So they're losing context. They're losing the authentic memories. They're losing the place-based experiences that we have when we actually are fully present, seeing a great piece of art rather than capturing it through our phones. Same thing with the concerts. The other day I attended a concert in New York, and almost everyone was watching it through a 4-inch screen. And I'm sitting there thinking, people, you have these two virtuoso guitarists in front of you, and you're not hearing them. You're not seeing them. You're recording them. They're not paying attention to the crowd around them, the sense of togetherness, the lights, the mist, all of that. They're missing everything. One of the greatest things we can do to be more present, and I'm really, really glad that I left the phone. I did find it, of course, because I'm using it right now. But I'm really, really glad that not only did I leave the phone or recognize that I left the phone somewhere else, but then I didn't run to get it. I had that momentary pause and say, this really is great. Everyone's happy. This is the point of life. It doesn't get better than this. And we need to begin to put those phones away. Fortunately, there's lots of technology out there that if we can't do it ourselves, we can use other apps to limit our use. They can shut it down at certain times of day and so on. And I really can't recommend this enough. There are horrible memes online where they'll show a couple in bed and you'll see them basically silent, curled over, facing outward on their phones rather than having any intimacy emotionally together. And that's one of the saddest things I could ever think about.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, you've talked about connection in a variety of different ways. What are some of the advantages within our own homes of putting phones away? I know a lot of people, like, they'll put them away for dinner time, but not everybody.
Right. So please, please, please put them away at dinner time. If you use them for music like we do every now and then, set a playlist, put it in another room. That would be very, very helpful. It's so important for kids. They see when parents are not paying full attention, and they can feel it. I know when I'm looking at my phone responding to something and one of my kids is trying to get my attention. I feel terrible in retrospect when I realize that I'm sending them all the wrong messages and all the wrong signals. I'm saying, hey, your dad is not present. Your dad is not fully with you. And they'll remember that. And over time, those feelings absolutely can accrete. Same thing with, even watching television or a movie. There are studies now that show that movies and television scripts and performances have been dumbed down or changed so you can scroll and look at your phone while watching a movie. People do that all the time. But again, you're missing the collective experience. And that collective experience is enjoying a show together. I remember, I like to joke that my wife and I actually bonded deeply over The Apprentice when Donald Trump was on TV for the first time. We didn't have cell phones at that point, and we connected over all the little silly things. Now, we look at the phones. That's a problem. We need to put those away again.
All right.
So it's really for intimacy and bonding with spouses and family, and most importantly, our kids.
Thank you so much for joining us. That was Professor Sam Abrams. And look, in the next hour of Inside Sources, there's a new fund to compensate the January 6 votes who received a pardon from President Trump. More on that, and the president's now dropped lawsuit against the IRS.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. A group fighting to save the Great Salt Lake is now recruiting people at Harvard to join their cause. Members of Grow the Flow recently went to Massachusetts to speak with professors and students at Harvard Business and Law Schools about the lake. The head of the group tells the Deseret News a shrinking Great Salt Lake could have national and even international implications. They went to Harvard because he says they need to build a movement that goes beyond state lines. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Trump administration has announced the creation of a $1.7 billion fund to compensate allies of the Republican president who believe they were mistreated by the Biden-era Justice Department. The Anti-Weaponization Fund was announced by the Justice Department this morning as part of a deal to resolve President Trump's lawsuit against the IRS over the leak of his tax returns. Democrats and government watchdogs immediately pledged to fight what they called a corrupt and unprecedented resolution. Oil prices pushed higher overnight after President Trump threatened to resume bombing in Iran if they don't agree to a peace plan.
Oil prices above $106 a barrel this morning, and that flows almost immediately through to the pump. The national average for a gallon of regular is now $4.47, and it all comes as travelers are preparing to hit the road in record numbers for Memorial Day. Drivers will face the highest price of gas in 4 years. Prices up $1.33 a gallon from last year's prices, and still continuing to climb with the region so uncertain.
ABC's chief business correspondent Rebecca Jarvis reporting. Oil right now, $106 a barrel. That's up $1.43 in trading today. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 25 points to 49,500. Coming up, the rain clouds move out this afternoon. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security, Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
the ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
where survival,
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion, and that of the sheriff, is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. You deserve to love where you bank. Let's go back to Cormac Bone.
Well, the roads have really calmed down after our morning drive. No major delays on any of your freeways across the Wasatch Front. Sun has come up and started to dry out those damp roads just a little bit. It's just normal delays you can expect. A couple of scattered delays both directions on the 201 freeway at Magna. Light there, and in Lehigh, also light delays eastbound scattered on 2100 North from Redwood Road over to I-15. While you're planning your day, plan for comfort too with the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we stay in the mid-50s today, but the rain moves out this afternoon. Tomorrow we're up to 63, 70 by Wednesday, up in the 80s by Saturday and into Memorial Day weekend. Right now it's 45 degrees and still raining in spots in Salt Lake County. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
This is really interesting news this morning, Holly, and it kind of came right off the wall for me. But President Trump is dropping a lawsuit that he filed against the IRS for leaking his tax returns. It was some billion-dollar lawsuit. That's the good news, I guess. But as a part of that deal, the Department of Justice has created a $1.7 billion fund to compensate what they call the president's allies. And there are several of these, including apparently some of the January 6th insurrectionists.
Yeah. So the head scratcher for me is it was a $10 billion lawsuit by the president, filed as a private citizen, but he's in charge and oversees the IRS and the DOJ. So that was a little bit of a head scratcher when it was originally filed. So if you remember when the tax filings were released, it showed that the president had paid $0 in taxes. And I think he was not happy about that, clearly, because he filed this lawsuit. It's just interesting in a lot of different ways, because now what we're saying is the January 6th defendants who felt like they were, quote, mistreated by the Biden administration's Justice Department can now seek compensation. So not only did they get pardoned, but now they can actually get money from it.
Which is, well, I need to disclose, I represented one of the January 6th defendants. My client was pardoned, and right out of the chute when Trump took office, and that was before he was scheduled to go and start serving his prison sentence, and notwithstanding that he'd entered a plea. So I just want to make that clear. I don't represent him now. The case is dismissed, and he's been cleared and is being pardoned, so he doesn't even exist in the books anymore. But I will say it's highly unusual that people would get compensation for criminal conduct that they either were convicted of or pled guilty to, even if they were pardoned or expunged or whatever down the road.
It is interesting. And, one of the things that I felt like happened is that I think we have sanitized the versions of what happened on January 6th, right? I mean, we watched it happen real time as police officers were beaten by flagpoles, for example, or that they they were trapped, they were being hit by poles. It just, to say that the people who were, I think, perpetrating these acts of violence, not only were they pardoned, but now they can make bank off of this. I just, for me, that is so hugely problematic.
I think if you watched that event unfolding at the time it was very upsetting. It was very troubling.
It was. There was a noose for Vice President Pence at the time.
And they were in some of the representative and senators' offices, trashing things, looking for people. Had they found some of the people that they were looking for, it could have been bad. And some of these congressional representatives were just literally hiding in the basement while their security officers were getting pummeled.
Yeah, if you remember that there was a Capitol Police who he was directing senators out of the way the protesters were storming through the Capitol, right? And they were sheltering in place, and then they were trying to get out through the tunnels and things. So as a result of this, Democrats and government watchdogs immediately pledged to fight. They're calling it a corrupt and unprecedented resolution, warning that the arrangement could unjustly enrich people close to the president with taxpayer dollars and then open the door to meritless claims of political persecution.
Yeah, it also not only includes people involved in the January 6th insurrection, but it also apparently would approve payouts to supporters in the Trump-Russia investigation, and investigated and prosecuted some of his perceived adversaries. So this was this is shocking. This is shocking to me. Now, on the one hand, he did drop the lawsuit against the IRS, something that where he oversees their director, even
and the DOJ, both.
Right in the Department of Justice, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
That could even occur, and I'll say this: he enjoys a lot of immunity right now as president, so he can't be.
Yeah, thank you to the Supreme Court.
He can't be sued. He can't be brought in, but he can sue. He can take actions himself, which seems a little disingenuous. That on the one hand, he's shielded by his power. On the other hand, he's not precluded by his power from taking aggressive steps against his own government.
Yeah, again, it's news this morning that he has dropped the lawsuit and concurrently has a $1.7 billion fund of taxpayer dollars to compensate his allies.
So I think it's going to be interesting to see who applies for this. What happens? Are these January 6th insurrectionists and others who have been what he would claim to be victims? Are they all going to call their lawyers and say, "Hey, I want a piece of the pie"? I mean, $1.7 billion is going to go a long way, no matter who. I mean, that's a lot of money. Let's face it. And for all the people involved in this, that could be $1 million each, theoretically. And so I think people are going to jump in line and say, "I want some part of this." How the Justice Department will decide who gets what, because they've set aside the fund. It's there. The money's there. Do we just say, okay, we got to spend it at some point, or do we have some list of names how people can apply for it? But some people are going to get a lot of money.
Yeah, there's no clarity on how that process might work. I will say this, that the president will not receive any payments, but he will receive a formal apology, the Justice Department said. because he felt like it was inappropriate that his tax records were released.
Yeah. I don't know. These things trouble me as an attorney. Lawsuits being settled in exchange for something almost completely unrelated. I couldn't even imagine that the lawsuit against the IRS had any validity. And now, disclosing his tax returns, I don't know, is there some high expectation of privacy on that? I don't know, but he was upset about that, brought the lawsuit, and then seemingly take the high road. Hey, I'm dismissing this, but you're going to set aside nearly $2 billion for my allies.
Yeah. Within minutes of his legal team notifying the court that he's going to drop the case, nearly 100 House Democrats filed a friend of the court brief.
Yeah, no kidding.
Accusing the president of self-dealing, right? I mean, and I'm going to ask you as an attorney, just the optics of something like this.
Well, I mean, it doesn't.
If it has legal validity, or is it just like the optics are pretty darn bad?
I mean, if you'd have told me a year or two ago we would do something like this, or if we revisit this 2 or 3 years from now and we say, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
The optics of all of this are just horrific. But in the moment, we seem to be accepting them as the norm. But it's not. This is not the way it's supposed to be.
So when there's a Democrat in the White House, are they going to then be able to say, look, everybody under the previous administration, President Trump's administration, we were targeted unfairly, and so we want to be compensated as well? I absolutely see that that's what's going to happen.
I don't see how you can complain about what he's doing now and then do it yourself. I don't think that they'll do that. I really don't.
And speaking of Congress, we're getting closer to Utah's own primary election, but we're getting some idea of how things could shape up nationally as we get insights from other primary races. We're going to talk about some of the shakeups.
Jeff Kaplan here, and every once in a while I still do my afternoon radio show from home, which means this entire legendary radio station is depending on the reliability of my Wi-Fi. If it goes out, KSL goes dead. That's why I use Xfinity Wi-Fi. I get Wi-Fi built for speed, powered by fiber with 99.999% reliability. Xfinity gives you the most intelligent Wi-Fi. It can heal itself. Sometimes between my wife, my grandkids, and me doing the show, there's a lot going on in my house, and the Wi-Fi works perfectly. When there's a problem, whether it's streaming, gaming, working from home, or all three, everything in your home works together. And right now, you can lock in 5 years of Xfinity predictability. 5 years at the same price with no contracts or commitments. You get everything you need, the data, the equipment, and the most reliable Wi-Fi. Get online in minutes, same-day Wi-Fi, same price for 5 years. No contract. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Select plans only.
Wait! Before you change the station, listen to this.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Pickup is quick and easy. You'll also get a vacation voucher and a tax deduction.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. Donate your car today.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
If you're struggling to hear conversations, TV, or the people you love, now there's an easier, more affordable solution without spending thousands. Audien Hearing makes high-quality, rechargeable hearing aids starting at just $98 with free shipping and dedicated one-on-one support in the comfort of your own home. No doctor's offices, no pressure. Clearer hearing delivered right to your door. Join over 1 million happy customers hearing life more clearly. Visit audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house. Whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
My name is Ariel. When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without my high school diploma. My entire life changed when I took a chance and got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges.
Ariel, your success proves that what I'm doing as a teacher has real meaning.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
911, tell me exactly what happened. My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
And I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold.
Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know. Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Well, Republican members of Congress are sitting in a precarious position this morning, especially those who have gone against President Trump. And now a Republican senator was knocked out of his own primary thanks to the president's backing of one of his challengers.
You know, we're talking about Senator Bill Cassidy. And so it's what's interesting about Senator Cassidy is he's also a doctor. So he voted to confirm, for example, RFK Jr., but then has pushed back against him like the whole time, saying no, vaccinations are actually necessary. But what has happened is you are correct. He was knocked out of the primary, which means he will lose. So there was a 3-way race, and so there's a runoff now between the other 2 Republican challengers. But then that sets up for potential upset come the general. So we'll see. But one of the things, right, that I think is important to note is that people are like, look, if you cross the president, he's going to go hard against you.
Yeah, and he has. And I mean, right now with midterms just, I don't know, 6 months away, I think that there's a lot of concern about what's going to happen with both bodies of Congress, that there are a lot of positions up, and where we're going to sit. And the president is, he's certainly got the power to do this, lining up his friends to run against Democrats and people that didn't support him or that he feels crossed him in some way. He's working very hard to get them out of their own party primary. I mean, he's done an incredible job there in ways I didn't expect. And we talked about this a minute ago. With his approval ratings at basically an all-time low, how does he get this done? And the answer is it's within the party.
Yeah, within the party. So we have just a little bit of a sound clip of Senator Cassidy after he lost the primary.
People of character and integrity don't spend their time attacking people on the internet. Our country is not about one individual.
Yeah, I mean, we watched him on Saturday. He was very upset about this, but took it with a grain of salt. I mean, maybe he knew that was coming. There are other states. We talked about some local legislators on the local level last week that had been knocked out of their own state primaries because of their positions against the redistricting.
And
right.
in Indiana, yeah, you're right. So on Bill Cassidy, former Senator Mitt Romney said it was a loss for the country. And he's mostly been quiet on political issues, but he did speak out after it became obvious that Senator Cassidy has lost in the primary, and he just said, "Look, the Senate is going to lose an exceptionally brilliant and creative mind, an MD who chairs healthcare. He's a person of character, and that it's a loss for the country."
Yeah, and for former Senator Romney to weigh in on something shows his level of concern about it.
Yeah.
Trump's approval rating at the latest Times Siena poll is at 37%.
It's
but
down
if you look at the Republicans, he's probably still
higher.
over 50%, and that's what's getting these opponents of his knocked out.
I think too that Cassidy showed some grace, but had a little bit of a pointed argument. But he said to his supporters, when you participate in democracy, sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, but you don't pout, you don't whine, you don't claim the election was stolen, and you don't find a reason why you lost. So, we just know you don't manufacture some excuse, he says. You thank the voters for the privilege of representing the state or country for as long as you had that privilege, and that's what I'm doing right now.
So, again, let's go back to what I mentioned earlier, and I didn't get to follow up with you on. How does this work in the general election when you're getting people who are clearly aligned with Trump to get through their own party's primaries or conventions, and then they go to the general election and they're seen as more right-leaning than the person they knocked out? How's that going to play out in the general election?
It depends, right? So I think if that were to happen in the state of Utah, the Republican's probably still going to win. I think it's not unlikely that the Republican is going to win in Louisiana, especially with the redistricting that they're now hurriedly doing, which is another interesting story. Of course, senators represent the entire state, so redistricting doesn't touch the senators. But it definitely can come back to bite you, right? So you can win the primary and then lose the general election for sure. That does happen, especially if it's in a state that's considered a purple state, any kind of a swing state, or where you get enough people who are maybe unaffiliated voters and they show up because they vote as well. They just, a lot of them may not vote in the primaries.
So I think what you're going to see is a flip. That when you're dealing with the primary, they're up there wearing their MAGA hats. I've got the president's support. I want to do what I can to support his agenda. Trump's my guy. And then when they get to general election, I'm my own person. I'm going to vote what I think is right. I mean, I don't know. You can't ride. I don't think you could ride those coattails at a general election. I think it's going to be a problem.
There's an interesting,
except like you say in Utah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, it's theoretically possible, but very unlikely. But I want to say this too. There's another really interesting primary in Kentucky, and this one was with Thomas Massie, and he's in the House. And if you remember, Massie has been an outspoken critic of the president. The president has dumped a ton of money into the race against Thomas Massie. In fact, he posted again this morning on Truth Social, calling him a bunch of names and telling people to vote for his opponent. And Thomas Massie is like, look. His response, in fact, was this morning that I saw on X was he knows, like I know, that the polls show me with a good sized lead.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm confident that we can win this. So Thomas Massie, he just says, President Trump hands out endorsements like candy. He goes, just not to me, but he called his own dissent with the president an apostasy, right? And he's just like, look, he's been calling him out. He has voted repeatedly, this is Massie, against the war in Iran. He's condemned aid to Israel as a misuse of taxpayer money. I would say Massie is a very strong America First person, which is interesting because he was really aligned with the president, but he has continued to hold that line where it feels like other people have said, okay, well, wherever the president goes, we're going to follow.
I just feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit if we're Republicans and trying to get these people in, knowing that you're putting them in a worse position in the general election. I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll see.
And and sometimes you win the primary and you win the election. That happens a lot. In fact, in Utah, a lot of times the primary is the election that matters, right?
Sure, in Utah it is, yeah.
And not just Republican, right? But I think with this new district in Utah that we'll probably see the person who wins the Democratic primary will probably win the general. There are always exceptions, right? Things do happen. But again, it's interesting, this loyalty test, the purity test, right? And it kind of brings me to another article, and this was from Roll Call, and they just said, look, there are more lawmakers than usual leaving Congress, and so people are saying, like, why? So 36 House Republicans and 20 Democrats, that's 56, are saying they're not going to come back. They didn't even run for another cycle, and a lot of them are saying, I'm just tired of not being able to get anything done. This is a totally different place than when I first got elected. Things are not moving. We're completely deadlocked, right? And I don't want to be here.
And you've got to assume that most people think no matter who takes over the Congress or the Senate, that's not going to change for the next 2 years. That we're still going to be having the same problems with the House and the Senate being largely unable to do much to upset the president's agenda.
And it's interesting, even for example, Ryan Zinke, who's in Montana, he's leaving after serving more than 3 terms, plus he was in the first Trump administration's cabinet. He says he's just frustrated with the lack of regular order. There's not a committee central approach to legislation, and he feels like they're not focused on the Constitution like they should be, and they're just like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah, yep, too many. Well, it might not feel like it this morning. At least it didn't in my part of the state where I was seeing snow on my driveway this morning. But the unofficial start to summer begins this coming weekend with Memorial Day weekend. Some beautiful weather is on tap, and you might be thinking it's time to hit the water. We've got some water safety tips, including ways to prevent drownings after this.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, Utah Transit Authority employees gathered over the weekend to rally for new contracts. Trax operator Jake Helling tells KSL the negotiations have not been going well.
We're less than 50% of the way through negotiations, and we're now 5 months without a contract.
People at the rally tell us they want negotiations to move faster so they can reach an agreement and move forward. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A judge in New York City today ruled that the gun and notebook that prosecutors say link Luigi Mangione to the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson can be used as evidence at his murder trial. The judge's ruling rejects a defense argument that those items were seized illegally before a search warrant was obtained. It's a major win for prosecutors, enabling them to show the jury a possible murder weapon and evidence they say points to a motive. The Kilby Block Party wrapped up last night here in Utah, and experts say the thousands that showed up to enjoy the music helped give a nice boost to the economy. The festival's been getting national attention, and Dee Brewer with Downtown Alliance says hotels and restaurants saw the benefit.
With a music festival like this, 3 days, the diehards are there for many of those hours, but they also go out before and after, and some of them take a break.
Brewer says the festival draws young fans, but there are also plenty of people 55 and older visiting as well. An estimated 90,000 people attended the block party this year. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 50 points to 49,475. Coming up, we do finally dry out this afternoon, and warmer temperatures are on the way later in the week. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Do you have an IRA or 401k? It's natural to think of this as being your money, right? But remember, you still have to pay taxes when you withdraw this money in retirement. And you could be paying a lot more in taxes on these accounts than you know. A lot more. Learn the strategies that can help you reduce or eliminate your taxes in retirement. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL News Radio 102.7.
You get vehicles that are not watching or trying to push it too closely.
Don't let your summer vacation memories take a detour.
Their little split decisions can change people's lives.
KSL breaks down Utah's 5 deadliest stretches of road, the fatal mistakes causing crashes, and safety projects designed to prevent them.
Anything we can do to cut down on those crossover crashes.
Watch Safety Solutions, Utah's Deadliest Roads, tonight at 10 on KSL 5 News.
Progressive knows you could have easily taken the freeway, but you took the scenic route to see a waterfall and an oddly busy boiled peanut stand. Discovering the unexpected is exactly why you bought an RV, so protect it with a bundle from Progressive. Because although you may be 3 hours behind schedule, you're 6 jars of jam richer and possibly enrolled in a butter-churning workshop. Switch to Progressive and protect your RV, boat, or motorcycle by bundling with your home or auto insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Got any markdowns on brakes?
We mark Duralast brake pads down to free.
Free Duralast brake pads?
When you buy 2 rotors.
Can I get Duralast Gold pads for free?
With 2 Duralast Gold rotors, and there's a lifetime warranty on brake pads.
That's a huge markdown for so many miles.
Save on brakes and more during Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a gripping new 9-part investigative podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of, Warren Forrest, a sadistic predator who prowled the Pacific Northwest in the early 70s. He hid behind the deeds of Ted Bundy, and he's only been convicted of 2 murders, but is suspected of many more. Since the release of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a witness identified in the podcast could lead investigators to the remains of Jamie Grissom.
He ran into the woods. He said he stumbled. As he fell down, he looks up and sees the body of a young woman.
And now the FBI is testing forensic evidence that had been collecting dust for decades. This cold case is now red hot. Binge the entire season of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest breaking news.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Here's Cormac Bone.
We don't have any delays on all our freeways across the Wasatch Front, but there are a couple of crashes. The first is southbound I-15 in Roy at 5600 South. They are out of traffic and in that right shoulder. And the other is in Spanish Fork at the Highway 6 interchange. They're at the off-ramp from southbound I-15. Looks like they're causing a little bit of delay as you get off of I-15 in Spanish Fork. At UTA, it's never just a ride from point A to point B. We move independence, we move purpose, we move memories, we move what matters, you. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, the rain is winding down, but it's going to stay in the mid-50s throughout the day. 63 tomorrow, 70 on Wednesday, and it keeps getting warmer till we hit that holiday weekend. Right now it's 46 degrees and some rain showers around the valley. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, if you're like me and you woke up this morning and thought, hey, winter has returned, apparently I'm not alone. A lot of people thought that. There was snow on the ground up in Eden.
Yeah, but we also know that summer's coming back. This weekend, we're looking at highs in the mid-80s.
Yeah, and in case you've forgotten, this weekend is actually a long weekend. It's a 3-day weekend. It's also the unofficial start to summer. The Memorial Day weekend, Monday is Memorial Day. This will be a big weekend for Utah's parks.
It will. And as we get closer to this weekend and the unofficial start to summer, we're taking some time on Inside Sources this week, all week, to go in depth on water safety. So I will just tell you this. Losing a child to drowning, I swear, might be one of my number one fears. And I know families who have lost children that way, and it is so heart-wrenching that sometimes my adult kids will say, Mom, it'd be so great, put a pool in your backyard. And I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah, and the other way that a lot of Utahns take to water is boating. And I had a boat. And I'll tell you what, I bought the boat. My kids were so excited. We had it for probably 10 or 12 years. I could not wait to sell it because of the same thing. I mean, you get out there, it's got a big car motor in it. It's got a propeller that will cut you to pieces, and there's boats flying around you the whole time. I mean, it's like, I don't know. The kids loved it, but as a father, as a parent, the tubing, the boating, the propeller, I was like, I got to get away from this thing.
So scared. So we have with us Trish Hull, Utah Drowning Prevention Coalition Chair, to talk to us some more. Thanks for joining us, Trish.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
I wonder if you can just start by talking about some of the numbers, both nationally and in Utah. What do we see with drowning?
Drowning is the number one cause of death in children's ages 1 to 4, which is really scary. You mentioned it with your pool. Here in Utah, we have the numbers up there, just about ready to release the 25 numbers. But in 24, there were 35 fatalities in drowning and 164 non-fatal drownings. Not all drownings are fatal, but they can have repercussions after. So it is a thing, and we vary between 35 and up into as high as 50. So it's a big deal. And here's another interesting stat. 66% of those are men compared to women, or female compared to male. So that's kind of an interesting one. And of course, that age group, late teens, 20s, early 30s, that's also the highest area of drowning.
I would have expected, Trish, that the age would have been kids, like 3 or 4 or 5-year-olds that don't have the ability to swim. But what you're talking about is young men, which tells me, and I'm just guessing, that maybe other factors are at play here. For example, maybe drinking or partying too much.
Well, there's several factors, and children are a high factor, but they're not out on the open waters generally. Those happen in pools or bathtubs. Children, actually anyone, but children especially, can drown in as little as 2 to 3, 4 inches of water if their head's down and they don't know how to get around, or they panic. And older kids, teenagers, and men, a lot of it isn't necessarily, although alcohol is a big factor. If you ask the Division of Outdoor Recreation people, they will tell you that is one of their number one problems on boating and where they have trouble. But also young men, younger adult men, and even older ones overestimate their own abilities and underestimate the conditions of the water. They think, oh, I'm a good swimmer. Nothing's going to happen to me. But they forget that, especially out on the open water, it's much colder. You never know what the conditions of the water are going to be, if there's undertows or if there's riptides, currents. You don't know if a storm is going to come in quickly and what that might do to the conditions of the water and to the boat. We've heard many years there are fires on boats, right? And if you don't have your life jacket on, you probably don't have time to go find that cabinet you put it in and then get it on. There are also paddle boarders out there a lot, and those are areas where generally that's a younger age group that are out there paddle boarding, and that's where a lot of deaths happen as well.
So, Trish, you remind me of several stories that I feel like I read last year where people drowned in their attempts to had a fatal drowning. I'm learning that there's different terminology, but they had a fatal drowning in their attempts to rescue someone else, usually like a child, somebody younger. Can you talk to us about how we should approach somebody who's in trouble if we think we can help?
Yes, absolutely. And that's very critical. The one thing the National Drowning Prevention Alliance and the Utah Drowning Prevention Coalition teach is reach and throw, don't go. Drowning is silent. You maybe on TV you see them waving their hands and yelling. They're not. They are generally under the water, and they're using the water as a ladder to try and climb up and get air. It's a silent drowning. And so if someone jumps in, you become the ladder. Unless you're a trained lifeguard or professional and know how to approach them and how to help them, we suggest that you throw something in, maybe a pole, maybe a buoy, maybe even a pool noodle or some kind of floating rope, whatever you have, and then pull them into the boat. Because if you jump in, you become the ladder, and they climb you to get air, and they're pushing you down while they're getting oxygen. And that happens quite often.
When you talk about at the outset, Trish, 35 fatalities and 164 non-fatal, you're talking about people who got in a position of drowning but didn't die. They had other problems that someone had to rescue them, or they rescued themselves.
Yes, those are the ones that EMS or they were sent to a hospital or somewhere that they reported those as drownings, but someone was there to give them CPR or help them resuscitate, whatever was needed. Not all, after 4 minutes, lack of oxygen, brain damage can start. And so it just depends on the length of time that they were without oxygen as to what their condition is. But yeah, those are the non-fatal drownings where they come out of it and don't die.
Is that something that we used to call near drowning? In fact, I said this the other day to our producer, dry drowning, and he's like, that's not a thing.
That's true. It's not a thing. And that's been researched extensively by everyone who researches anything over the past 20 to 30 years. I think there's always been maybe a correlation. Maybe there was some pre-existing condition that might have caused the drowning, like they had some kind of condition and then they were in the water and something happened, or later on. But the drowning incident itself, drowning is not water in the lungs. It is lack of oxygen. And sometimes there can be people who drown who don't have very much water in their lungs. So it's not like later on something happens. That just isn't medically and scientifically, it's not a thing. You either drown and are resuscitated and are fine, or you drown and die, or you drown and maybe during that incident, because of lack of oxygen, you have some things. But any kind of medical event after did not have anything to do with the drowning.
So drowning really is the lack of oxygen, but some people survive a drowning.
Yes.
Okay.
Many do, actually. Obviously, there were 164 that did survive. Yeah.
So we're going to keep this conversation going with you, Trish, if that's okay. We're going to talk about life jackets and swimsuit colors and some additional common sense advice when we come back, if that's okay.
Yes.
Amanda, every business needs IT help. And sometimes you've got that guy who already works for your company who knows how to do this stuff, but sometimes you don't. Or the guy who knows the IT stuff, that's not his actual job.
Right. So Les Olson IT they can be your 24/7 help desk. They can support your existing help desk. They can do advanced cybersecurity protection. Maybe just come and take a look. Are you subject to phishing or ransomware or other things? What are the cyber threats you're facing?
And you've got to make sure that your data is secure. So both cloud and data backup solutions, they can help you with that. Plus, everybody's got to use a computer. That's where hardware comes in, infrastructure support. You don't have to know all this stuff because Les Olson IT knows it.
And most of the time, they can help you fix whatever's going wrong remotely, just off your computer. Plus, of course, they have copiers and printers. They always will at the very best price.
Les Olson IT is your trusted local IT partner. They've been in business for 70 years, and they've got 9 locations from Logan to Las Vegas.
Find out more at lesolson.com.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Doug Wright, and I'm here with Monty from Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, an authorized Connecticut independent dealer. Now, Monty, don't all of the other water softeners require us to basically trust our home's water to electronics? If a power surge happens, a fried circuit board, or the power just goes out suddenly, aren't you back to scrubbing hard water scale and dry skin?
Yes, we believe the best technology is simple. That's why Connecticut's premium systems are non-electric. While other softeners rely on finicky computers and electronics, Connecticut runs on the kinetic energy of moving water. Nothing to plug in, no buttons to push, and zero electricity.
I've had a Connecticut soft water system in my home for many years, and I've never had to do anything to it except occasionally add a little salt. And I love that it never requires me to set or program anything. Dee loves that she always has the soft water. So do what I did and go to softwaterutah.com to learn how your family can enjoy the benefits of soft water without the hassles of traditional water softeners. That's softwaterutah.com.
Download to see if you qualify. Not all customers will qualify. Transfer fees may apply. No Albert subscription required. Albert is not a bank. Albert Instant Loans are issued by FinWise Bank, member FDIC. Not an actual client. Terms apply.
Kylie, what's wrong? I just got hit with a car repair bill. I'm behind on rent, and I feel like I can never save
any money.
Have you tried the Albert app? Albert is your financial assistant, helping you find ways to save and create custom budgets to actually grow your money. Plus, you can get up to $10,000 for big expenses or advance up to $1,000 fast when you need cash right away.
Albert can get me up to $10,000?
Exactly. Albert spots you in a pinch and helps you grow your money in the long run.
I'm downloading Albert right now.
Download the Albert app and use promo code THRIVE to borrow up to $10,000 for whatever you need. The Albert app helps you budget better and save more money so you reach your financial goals faster. Download the Albert app right now and use promo code THRIVE to borrow up to $10,000. Use code THRIVE to borrow up to $10,000.
Serenity now! Serenity now!
Are you okay?
Okay. Gas is up. Groceries are up. Everything up, up, up.
Not at Strong Volkswagen.
Strong Volkswagen.
Yeah, purchase any vehicle with a dime. One dime down.
What is the deal with dimes?
One dime down. Plus, oil changes at just $59.95 at Strong Volkswagen.
Just $59.95?
Or lease a new 2026 Jetta S. Just $235 a month. $235.
Fun fact, new Jetta get up to 42 mpg.
Even new all-wheel drive Atlas. Just $432 a month. $432.
And you get a lifetime warranty. Lifetime. But my own mother won't loan me money.
You're not getting the money! It's okay. If you got a job and a dime, you ride, mister.
This is great. I'm back, baby, during Volkswagen Driver Days.
At Strong Volkswagen. For over 70 years, Strong Volkswagen.
Located downtown.
StrongVW.com.
StrongVW.com. For details, call 801-596-2200.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a gripping new podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of, Warren Forrest.
If he had dumped two, you would have thought maybe there's another one.
But now a witness, identified in the podcast, could lead investigators to Jamie Grissom. Binge Stolen Voices of Dole Valley wherever you get your podcasts and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the latest breaking news in the case.
Inside Sources.
Well, Memorial Day weekend is just around the corner with the unofficial start to summer, and it's a good time to us to maybe talk about drowning and water safety. And let's talk about focusing now on life jackets, and when we get to it in a minute, of all things, swimsuit colors. And life jackets, we're also going to talk about floaties, little things like water wings and things like that.
Yeah, and look, the swimsuit color thing was an issue I wrote about a couple years ago because when I saw the pictures of how certain swimsuit colors literally disappear underwater, it was like, okay, we're not wearing those anymore. Okay, so first I wanted to bring Trish Hull back on. She's the Utah Drowning Prevention Coalition Chair. Thanks for joining us again, Trish.
Oh, you're welcome.
So can we talk about life vests? Is there any difference between a life vest and a life jacket, or are those just interchangeable, first of all?
They're pretty interchangeable. They used to be called life preservers and not life jackets. There are many different kinds now, though, and the most important thing is whatever kind you get, make sure it is Coast Guard approved. There are some out there for sale that are not, and the Coast Guard approved ones are designed in a way to make sure it floats you up to the top of the water. Oh. And so that's the key. And there are some for little kids that even have a piece against their back of their neck that brings them up and brings their head up out of the water. So that's really important. Now, paddleboarders and people don't like to wear the big life vests sometimes. And there are other life vests. If you look at the Division of Natural Resource people out on the water, they're wearing kind of like a tube around their neck, and they can just pull a thing and it pops up to be a life jacket. And you can buy those on Amazon or anywhere pretty inexpensively. There are also ones you can wear just around your waist that paddleboarders like. And again, they're like a tube that goes around your waist. And again, you just pull it if you're in trouble, and it creates that float that will keep you up. Floaties and the little things you can buy at the store are bad. I have a story of that. My son, when he was 2, and he's in his late 30s now, he was in the water with his siblings and his dad, and all of a sudden he decided at 2 that he could swim and wanted to go swim to his older siblings, and he pulled those little arm things off, sank right to the bottom of the water. Yeah. So those things are they're not good. They're just not good. So no, don't buy those for kids. You can play with them if you're in the water with them, but they're not life preservers. They're not life jackets. So, and make sure it fits well. It should be snug. If it's loose, it's not going to do much good. So you tie it you secure it at the bottom like a house, make it the base, the foundation, and then you buckle it or zip it up all the way up. And then the very top you do, and make sure that if you pull it by the top, if it comes above your ears, it's too loose and you need either a smaller size or you need to tighten it up.
And can you tell our listeners, Trish, and maybe you don't know this off the top of your head, about regulations as it relates to boating? I mean, everyone on a boat has to have a life jacket, but they don't necessarily have to have it on, although it's probably, maybe I'm wrong, but it's
No,
probably
you're correct.
smart to have it on, unless you're of a certain age, then maybe you have to have it on.
You are correct. Under 13 must wear a life jacket on the boat. Over 13, they have to have the life jacket on the boat. I tell kids when I do a lot of water safety instruction with kids, and I say, now tell your older siblings and your parents and grandparents and anybody to wear a life jacket, because doesn't that seem silly? If there's an emergency, you're okay. You're going to be fine. They've got to find their life jacket, put it on, and hopefully, and they're worried about saving other people. There isn't time. It just doesn't make sense not to have it on all the time. And if you look at the drownings, and there will be drownings this summer, unfortunately, there already have been 2. They probably weren't wearing life jackets. One had a life jacket, but it wasn't on the entire way. It was like in one arm, and they both died. So, but there was a boat in Utah Lake a few years ago that caught on fire. 7 people were on the boat, and all 7 survived because they were all wearing their life jacket.
So they could jump off immediately, right? Instead of trying to figure out where it
and
was.
Rivers too. Sometimes we think rivers aren't as dangerous, but they are. And I think it doesn't even matter if it's still water or if it's rapids. Again, you're not going to have time to put it on when the danger occurs. And I'm not an expert, but I would guess with low water levels, you're going to have some changes in the way the water behaves in our lakes and rivers this year.
Yeah. Can we talk about swimsuit colors?
That is a really good thing. I know, like a blue, it depends on where you are, right? But if you're in a swimming pool, generally they might have a blue bottom. And if you're wearing that blue swimsuit, you can't be seen as well. So those bright red, orange, yellow, bright colors that are distinguishable from the water.
Yeah.
And there's another really important thing. It's called water watchers. Children, 9 out of 10 childhood drownings happen when an adult is present but not paying attention.
Wow.
So we have a water watcher program. It's a national program and there's a card we can give you, but you don't even have to have the card. Just you and the other parents that are around for 15 minutes. You are just watching your children in the water. You don't have your phone. You're not talking to somebody. You are not reading. You are just watching those kids. And after 15 minutes, you hand it off to another parent, and they spend 15 minutes just watching kids. And then be really careful as you're packing up. Maybe you're at the beach and you're getting ready to go and you're trying to gather everybody. That's a time when kids are watching mom's distracted, dad's distracted, grandma, anybody, and they turn around and decide, I want to go in the water one last time. And no one's paying attention because they're doing something else. Also, kids on the autism spectrum or on the neurodivergent spectrum are way more likely to drown, because they are attracted to that water. So if your kids are missing, go to the nearest body of water and keep an eye on those kids. Make sure if you have a pool, it's locked, that there's a gate around it. And if you have a neighbor who has a pool, make sure your kids know. And also tell your kids, never go alone. Go with a buddy, and always, always, always ask permission. Tell your parents or tell an adult, trusted adult, where you're going.
Trish, I noticed at the reservoir that I lived near that there are more. Maybe I just haven't noticed in the past, but just open water swimmers, people who are doing it for fitness or exercise. What kind of advice do you give them? Because I think that maybe I don't know if they wear life preservers or not. You know what I mean? You see them out swimming, and it's kind of open water. There are boats around there, but there's a lot going on there with those people, it seems like.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, again, they think they're great swimmers, and they are, because they're doing this amazing swim. They can get a cramp. They can hit something in the water. They might not have the energy that day that they thought they did. Maybe they feel like they can power through. They should be wearing a life jacket. And again, they could wear one of those that's around the waist or an easy one around the neck. I have a son-in-law who likes to do those. And he always wears something like that to make sure, because often when you're training, you don't necessarily have someone you can train with. But if you tell somebody where you're going and where you are, at least you have an opportunity to do that and to let people know where you are if you don't come back in time. But if you have that life jacket, at least you're above the water and you'll probably be okay. There's paddle boarders also. The wind catches them and can take them off farther than they maybe have the ability to return. So again, you shouldn't ever paddleboard alone. Let somebody know or go with somebody. I have a good friend who had her sister got way too far out and she didn't have the ability to come back. So the other people with her went back and they had to get a jet ski to run and get her. That's a really important factor. And Utah Lake has a windy app that lets you know about the wind conditions. And in Utah, those can change in a minute.
I wanted to spend just a minute or two talking about potential medical emergencies that could happen. And, one of the pieces of advice I think that you shared with us before we started this segment was don't do breath holding contests underwater. And it sounds self-explanatory, except for my daughter went to college with an athlete who actually died that way. He held his breath for so long that I think he went unconscious, and then he took a big breath in and ended up dying.
Yes. There were, I don't know if you remember last summer, it was in the news. Some boys were in a hot tub and they played the hold your breath underwater game, and all the boys popped up except for one. And fortunately, there was a nurse that lived next door and she was able to resuscitate the boy. They found him in the bottom of the hot tub and brought him up. So, I'm sure we all played it, but your body wants to breathe. And it's going to do what it has to do to get a breath. So it really is a dangerous game.
What about medical emergencies? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, you should have people around you who know CPR, or you should take CPR so you can be that person. And it's not as hard as it used to be. I mean, if you can take a course, that's great. But if you're afraid to because you've never taken a course, I know West Valley Fire has a video on there that just said, it kind of tells you how to pump. You don't necessarily have to do rescue breathing, but you can pump their heart, and to the tune of staying alive. Yeah. And
Stay
so
alive,
you pump, you staying alive. And if you can do the rescue breathing, fine, but doing anything to get that water out of them, if there's water in them, but to get their lungs going, to get their heart going.
Wonderful. Great news. Thanks for joining us this morning. When we come back, most colleges have already had their graduations this week, and now high schools are starting to ramp up. We're going to take a look at job prospects for new grads when we come back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top national story this hour from ABC News. The DOJ has announced an anti-weaponization fund, which will compensate people who have claims to have been victimized by the government. The fund comes after President Trump agreed to drop his lawsuit against the IRS. ABC's Catherine Falders has more.
The Department of Justice actually issued a press release where they have announced what they call part of a settlement agreement in Donald Trump versus the IRS. They say as part of that, they're creating this anti-weaponization fund. Of course, the fund that we reported on, and that it will be $1.776 billion, nearly $1.8 billion in that fund. Of course, the 1.776 is a nod to America's birthday, is what they're trying to do there.
Today also marks the first workday during the Long Island Railroad strike. The Long Island Railroad is the largest commuter train service in the U.S., and some 300,000 commuters are having to find another way to get into New York City. The MTA, which oversees New York Public Transit, and 5 unions of train conductors and operators failed to reach an agreement on a contract over the weekend. ABC's Krista McNally talked to one train operator on the picket lines, Mike Colucci, at the Ronkonkoma train station.
The reality is keeping the economic engine of Long Island alive and having viable jobs for the future. And we just want to go back instantly to get back on this equipment and bring people to and from New York to enjoy the fruits of being here and part of our community to advance this process. And hopefully this gets resolved.
The MTA is offering shuttle service for those who can't work from home during the strike. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones is up 8.5 points. That's just a fraction of a percent. The S&P 500 is down 25 points. That's 0.3%. And the NASDAQ is down 198 points. That is 0.76%. Coming up, the slow crawl back to summer weather begins. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-979-3535. That's 800-979-3535. 800-979-3535.
A family office is a team built to handle the three biggest financial responsibilities a family faces: wealth management, tax strategy, and estate planning. Most firms only manage your investments and refer the rest out, hoping everyone stays aligned. At Trajan, we built something different. Your wealth, tax planning, and estate planning are handled together inside one firm under one roof. There's no guessing whether your CPA, advisor, and estate attorney are truly in sync, because our team works together every day on your behalf. When your financial life becomes more complex, your advice should become more coordinated, not more fragmented. One plan, one trusted team. Call Trajan today, 855-TRAJAN-1. That's 855-TRAJAN-1.
Trajan Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Additional services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures and accreditation at TrajanWealth.com.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
A place where survival,
it's dark now, I have nothing,
is never certain. In 2011, an Australian hiker vanished.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
The mountains have decided to keep him.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have some problems out there. A crash with injuries had been blocking a right lane southbound I-15 after 6 North near the downtown area. Looks like delays have cleared from that. An accident southbound I-15 in Roy at 5600 South. It's been moved out of traffic to the shoulder. So despite having some issues here and there with crashes, we're still looking at good speeds on all the Valley freeways. Arctic Spas, hot tubs, and swim spas with stores in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Perimeter Heat look insulation with free heat. The only spa built for Utah's harsh climate. ArcticSpasUtah.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs are going to start their slow climb from 56 today through the 70s from Wednesday to Friday, and then they're going to hit the 80s on Saturday and Sunday. Right now, though, it's 46 degrees with showers downtown. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, recent graduates here in Salt Lake may find they're struggling to find a job more than their peers nationwide, especially when it comes to securing a job after graduation. We're looking at some data, Holly. This is shocking to me personally. From ADP Research, part of a human resources management and software company, found that the Salt Lake City market ranked at the very bottom among major metro areas when it comes to jobs for recent college graduates. That is...
Ouch.
I mean, I absolutely found that hard to believe.
So they were looking at 3 metrics, and that included median wages and affordability and the hiring. But we pay less than average, right, below median nationally, and we know that we have an affordability crisis in our state.
Yeah, but we also have we also have very low unemployment in Utah. I think it's well below the national average.
Yeah, but you have to look to at what they call underemployment. So you can get a job, but maybe it's not the job you want. Maybe it's not full time. Maybe it's not in your field, right? And so that's an issue too. But one of the things to note is when they talked to Phil Dean, he's the chief economist and research director at the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute. He actually says it's not that surprising to him because for especially for younger people, there's a bit of a mismatch between where income levels are at and costs, especially housing costs.
Yeah, and I can understand that. We've talked a lot on this show about what's happening with housing right now, and wages in Utah haven't kept up. Our minimum wage is probably the lowest in the country, and our housing prices are, if not the highest, they're certainly very, very high, especially along the Wasatch Front. So maybe for recent graduates, it's hard to find a job that can, A, pay you a decent wage, and B, allow you to live the way you want to live and buy a house here. You may have to go to a different market.
So we're still projecting growth in our state, right? We know that. But we also know that there's just a little bit of difficulty right now. So I guess one of the things to consider, right, is what does that mean for employment? And I think I kind of alluded to it. Sometimes it means that you're going to have to take a job that is not your ideal job right out of the gate. Also, I think that's probably fanciful thinking to think that you're going to get your ideal job the very first second you have a degree in your hand.
Yeah, there was some good news for Salt Lake, and that was there is some projected growth. I mean, Utah's still going to be a good place to work in the future. I think that there will be continued to have a good job market. We just have to get wages up to keep up.
And we need housing prices down. And I know that we've talked about this on our show before, but when you're talking about a starter home and the median home price now in Utah is somewhere around $600,000. But if you're looking at a starter home, but you're incentivizing building brand new homes, that in my head is not the definition of a starter home. A starter home is an older one, maybe a fixer-upper, right, that you can get in for a cheaper cost, and it's going to be smaller than maybe what you think you're going to need down the road. But that, to me, is what a starter home is. But we've talked also about how people are kind of stuck right now in the real estate market. Like if you've got a really good interest rate, you're not selling your home, and then the cascade going down for availability, it's just not there. So that's part of it.
Right. And another piece of troubling news, I guess, is that the Washington Post is reporting that the U.S. job market is stuck. That even though it's fairly stable, it just doesn't seem to be going very. It's not moving up for new job seekers.
And that's one of the things too, where you look at it. Are people stuck in a job also that they don't love because they feel like there's nowhere for them to go, or are they looking, right? So there's still job availability for job seekers, but there may be a mismatch. You know, the one area where it's really growing right now is healthcare.
Right, and a dearth of healthcare workers. I mean, if you wanted to go into a field like nursing or medicine, it's a great time to do that because...
Although you may have to move out of Utah, by the way, because we talked with an expert, and we also had a texter, I remember, saying that they knew somebody who had applied for over 100 nursing jobs and were not able to get their foot in the door. But what's also interesting to me, and again, this is on the minds of college grads right now, but a master's degree isn't the job guarantee that it used to be. And this is coming from the Wall Street Journal. So I saw this one, and their summary, basically the unemployment rate for workers under 35 with a master's degree has rarely been higher in 20 years.
Yeah.
So
you'd always expect, a college degree is a ticket to a job. A master's degree is almost a guaranteed ticket to a job.
And what we see also is that there has been just a huge increase in master's degree programs. So there's now more than 33,500 programs, and that exploded between 2005 and 2021. And a lot of programs, we know this, right? Launching in the past 5 years, they have a focus on artificial intelligence, reskilling maybe. But But again, you get these degrees, and sometimes people went back after the pandemic and they're like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to go get a master's degree. And then finding that it doesn't actually translate into any increase in job opportunities or in wages, or what it does do sometimes is for employers to say, oh, now you're overqualified.
I would bet that if we took a look at this job growth and this job potential in the Salt Lake market and included trade schools as opposed to just college graduates, the numbers would be different, because I think that there are a lot of jobs.
There are still lots of jobs
right
in the
now.
trades. Yeah.
And people don't realize how much money could be made in some of those fields right now, and that there is I think a lot of jobs available. I'm just guessing.
Well, no, that is one. But look, we're looking at maybe in manufacturing, there's a lot of different kinds of trades, of course. But if you look at home building, it's still out there, but it's a little slower than it has been, right? There's been some market impacts there. But I'll say, just personally, I have a son who has his license as an apprentice electrician. He's 2 years through a degree program that will get him to be a master electrician. He's working full-time, going to school full-time, and he is going to be well situated when he is completely trained as a master electrician in 2 more years.
As he should be. And
Yeah.
I remember when I went to college, a lot of people don't know this, my undergraduate degree was in engineering, and I still think an engineering degree is a great ticket to just about anything. That we will always need engineers. I mean, that's one of those, I think, I'm just guessing, careers that are, majors that is probably going to get you a job.
And I look at it and say, I don't know. I think those jobs are going to AI.
That's I knew you were going to say that. AI.
You did.
think teaching jobs are going to be good too, notwithstanding AI.
Yeah, we've got a texter that says that they know somebody who's applied to many jobs, and now they're working with LDS Employment Services because they just can't find a job, right? And again, it's one of the things that I think we have to expect flexibility and the ability to pivot, right? Are you going to stay in Utah? Then that means you're going to have to make some different decisions. Are you going to stay in the market that you got a degree in or earned a trade in? Maybe you're going to have to move, right? Maybe you're going to have to accept lower wages or a higher cost of living, or you're going to make different choices and you're going to relocate somewhere else. So anyway, for all of those high school graduates, what are they going to do? I think some of them are going to go to college, some of them are going to go to trade school, and some of them are going to go on and do other things.
Right. I still think college or trade school is the way to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Look, so we're going to go back to D.C. and just say this. President Trump might end up dancing on his own because there's been another hurdle in the plan to get the White House ballroom built. So what Republican senators are doing to get another $1 million for security, well, that's coming up next.
Can we talk about something difficult to discuss? Are you going through a difficult financial time? You have equity in your home, but nobody can help? American Home Loans has created the Bridge Loan Program to use your equity regardless of your credit at this time. The Bridge Loan can be used to pay debts, collections, IRS liens, divorce settlements, or home improvements. Call at 801-262-2221. That's 262-2221. This loan creates a bridge between now and a much brighter future. After COVID, one of their clients had over $85,000 in credit cards. Their scores were too low to borrow on their home. American Home Loans was able to save them $2,000 a month. And after 8 months, they qualified for a conventional loan and lowered their payments. The consultation is free and confidential. Please call them and see what they can do for you. The number is 801-262-2221. It's 262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com. AmericanHomeLoans.com. NMLS 245422, Equal Housing Lender.
If your water heater's over 10 to 15 years old, congratulations. You've beat the average. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I love hearing stories of people having water heaters that are really old and they're still doing their job. Unfortunately, most of us won't be that lucky. And when water heaters fail, it's usually in spectacularly inconvenient fashion. Whether it's an unexpected cold shower when we're already running late for work, or worse yet, coming home to a flooded basement, it's never fun. If you'd like to look into replacing your water heater before it fails, Any Hour Services is having a sale for any homeowners listening. Whether you're looking for a new tanked water heater or you want to see what upgrading to a tankless would cost, the plumbers at Any Hour Services can show you what options are available. And right now, you can save $400 on a tanked water heater or $1,200 on a tankless. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services today and schedule your free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic. Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
where survival
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion and that of the sheriff is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
The new Inside Sources.
Well, there's another roadblock for Republican senators who are trying to get $1 billion to set aside security in the president's new ballroom at the White House. A Senate parliamentarian blocked the proposal over the weekend, saying it goes against Senate rules.
Yeah, so there is definitely a rule that says if you do it a certain way, then you can do just the majority. Otherwise, you got to do the 60-vote threshold. And the parliamentarian is like, nope, if you are adding this in, then you're going to have to go to 60 votes.
Which is going to be hard to get.
Oh, impossible. So we have with us Cami Mondo. She's the Deseret News congressional correspondent. And I wondered, Cami, if we could talk about this process about the Senate parliamentarian being able to block legislation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in this process known as what they call on the Hill a bird bath, because it's called the Byrd Rule, which basically outlines what exact policies can actually be used in budget reconciliation. It's a very strict process. It has to deal only with budgetary items, only with debt items. And basically, with this rule, with this ballroom funding, they said it fell outside of the jurisdiction of the Judiciary Committee, which is the one that's drafting this bill for immigration funding. And so, because it fell outside of those strict rules, they said it cannot be included with that, as you were saying, 50 vote threshold. It would have to be moved to 60 votes.
So, Cammie, can you tell our listeners who is the Senate parliamentarian? I don't mean by name, but how is that person selected? What do they do?
Reid actually is selected, I believe, by the president. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan position. This particular parliamentarian has been in this position for several years. You'll see either party get a little frustrated with the parliamentarian, depending on who's in the majority. But essentially, it's supposed to be a nonpartisan position looking strictly at legislative text to rule whether or not they believe it falls within the jurisdiction. So it is a personal, a recommendation or, ruling, kind of in a similar way of like a Supreme Court, but it is supposed to be a very nonpartisan ruling.
So to get this passed, I understand that they might be trying to tweak the proposal. Like, how much change do they have to make so that it can be an immigration bill?
Absolutely. And I had talked to a couple of Senate Republican aides this morning to kind of see where the, updates were. And they are trying to tweak the language, rework it a little bit, just because of how strict these rules are. Sometimes it's just a difference of how a sentence is drafted to see whether or not it falls under this Byrd procedure. And so they may have to rework it to take out, language around the East Wing modernization project. That might be what the problem is, that it can't go directly to the White House if it's supposed to be for immigration funding. We're not entirely sure where that language is at, what exactly they're tweaking, but it will be, very minor in the weeds language fixes.
Why is this? Why are we dealing with this right now? Are we still trying to figure out what we're going to do with this ballroom that's not built yet, and Democrats being upset about it? Is there a chance, Cammie, that maybe it just doesn't happen, at least for the next couple of years?
Right. So, yeah, this weekend ruling was a big win for Democrats, and they are going to keep trying to strip it out of this bill because, as you know, this ballroom project still hasn't even been approved by Congress. Trump was trying to go about it in a way that he said it would be privately funded. They're trying to tuck it into this bill to just get it through. And so I think we're obviously going to see them keep trying. And even if they do get this language in this bill, you're still going to see efforts by Democrats to put amendments on the floor this week to take it out. And depending on what some Republicans think, some Republicans don't like the idea of putting ballroom funding in there. It's definitely not a done deal, even if it can get into the package.
So can you remind us why we're having this $1 billion proposal when originally, as I understand it, it was supposed to be $400 million and it was supposed to be all privately funded, no taxpayer funds? Why the shift?
Right. And it seems that shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner was the massive shift here because, we did see the ballroom kind of fluctuate between how much it was going to cost. The Congress still did not want to have any part of it. They didn't approve it yet. But because of that shooting and because of, previous assassination attempts against President Trump, the president, his allies, and several lawmakers in Congress are saying, well, maybe we do need a space where we can hold private events. Whether or not you subscribe to that idea, that really was the shift into why they want to put it in this package right now.
When the president couldn't get some of what he was hoping with interest rates, he replaced the chair of the Fed. Is there a chance that he can say, I'm going to get rid of the Senate parliamentarian and to just replace her with someone that he likes?
Removing the Senate parliamentarian has always been a topic of discussion. The Senate majority leader would have to be the one to kind of do that. And, they were talking last summer when a lot of different provisions were taken out of the big, beautiful bill. You saw a lot of Republicans say, well, we should just remove the parliamentarian, overrule her. And that is an option, but it does set a precedent, obviously, that Senate Majority Leader John Thune and other Republicans don't want to touch because if someone overrules this nonpartisan position ruling, who's to stop anyone else in the future? And then you basically no longer need that position. It kind of becomes moot at that point. And so I think that's something they're going to probably get a lot of calls from, a lot of the far right, but I don't think we'll actually see that happen.
Let me ask you maybe a tangential question, because if you're tucking stuff into a bill, I know the president is still saying we need to pass the Save America Act, but that seems like maybe it's not moving forward, or might they tuck it into a bill like this?
They could try to tuck some aspects of it into this reconciliation bill because that has nothing to do really with the budget or anything. It wouldn't necessarily, adhere to those strict rules that we just saw the ballroom come out. But we did see Trump over the weekend say that he wants the Save America Act, or at least portions of it, to be tucked into a few other bipartisan bills that are making their way through, including this big housing bill that we may see make some movement in the House this week. But of course, if you attach that to any bipartisan piece of legislation, you're almost making sure it will be doomed because Democrats just want nothing to do with that.
Just reading about the budget and the money that's going to be taken for that and the role of the Senate parliamentarian, I can't imagine that this comes as much of a surprise for Republicans. I mean, or should it?
Right, and you did see a lot who last week were not even sure if this ballroom, funding would get past the parliamentarians. Some don't even think that if it did get passed, it should still be included. Utah Senator John Curtis was one of those people who is skeptical about putting $1 billion in here for a project where it's not entirely clear what it's going toward. And so he'll be somebody to watch this week as well. If it does get past the parliamentarian, but Democrats put a vote on the floor to strip it out, Curtis and a couple other Republicans could be, considering whether to do that.
And Cammie, let me ask you a question about timing, because I know that there are primaries already happening around the country. Utah's is towards the end of June. But when are federal lawmakers going to really be ramping up on election and running for election rather than actually getting work done?
Right. I think after this next Memorial Day recess, we'll see them in town in DC for a little bit in June and July. But once August comes around, it's definitely probably going to not see very much legislative work getting done. Right now, I think a lot of them view this week and maybe the first half of June as really the last chance to get anything serious through. After that, you could see things slip until way out until November, December. And even then, the power may shift in the House or Senate, so you may not see anything get done then either.
All right, hey, let me ask you one quick question. You answered this before, but can you just remind me why this particular budget item requires 60 instead of 51 votes?
Right, for the bird bath portion, because basically you have to go through the filibuster for anything that doesn't have to do with this budget thing. But with the budget reconciliation, you can work your way around the filibuster and only get 50 votes because of some rule change that they had made several decades ago.
Well,
all right. Thanks so much, Cammie. It's always great to talk to you. That was Cammie Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent. And it's interesting, right, to call it a bird bath because it's the bird rule. And we've talked about it before a little bit because you can have a specific thing that's included in it, but when you start to add these other things in, then it actually goes against the rules of the Senate.
Right. And then and so you go into And then you can say, well, it's for security, it's for Secret Service security, and then
which
maybe
doesn't really have anything to do with immigration.
Right,
I mean, it's kind of a stretch, at least.
Right, or even a lot to do with the ballroom, except that they provide security for the ballroom. So this is going to be interesting to watch play out.
All right. Well, up next on Inside Sources, we know that for years now, people on the left have used Scandinavian countries as kind of gold standards for how certain kinds of, quote, socialism can work. But some of those countries are moving more to the right and embracing capitalism. We're going to talk about this with an expert when we come back.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top local story this hour, Utah Transit Authority employees gathered over the weekend to rally for new contracts. Trax operator Jake Helling tells KSL the negotiations have not been going well.
We're less than 50% of the way through negotiations, and we're now 5 months without a contract.
The rally happened the same day UTA hosted the International Bus Rodeo. Rally members say they want negotiations to go faster so they can come to an agreement. There's a growing number of older adults and families using the warming center in Logan, and leaders say they would like to see a permanent shelter. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
The William A. Bernard Warming Center has seen an over 30% increase in use over this winter, a surprising statistic since we had a record warm winter. Executive Director Heather Crockett tells KSL she's concerned that they also saw an 80% increase in older adults looking for refuge. Crockett says she believes a permanent shelter is needed for the area, and a Utah State University survey shows a majority of locals agree.
City leaders say they are concerned about the growing levels of unhoused people in Cache County and are having constant conversations on solutions. New today, 2 Americans have been arrested in Japan accused of breaking into a monkey enclosure in a zoo near Tokyo. Police say one of them climbed the fence of the exhibit in a costume to get near Punch the Monkey, whose videos of him hugging a stuffed animal went viral online. The other man videotaped the entire thing. Both men now face charges of forcible destruction of business. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones is up 68 points. That's a fraction of a percent. The S&P 500 is down 17 points. That's about 0.25%. And the Nasdaq is down 176 points. That is 0.68%. Coming up, summer weather is coming back just in time for Memorial Day. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Every day on your way home, you pass it. That one lawn so thick and deep green, it belongs in the big leagues. It sets the bar for the entire street, making every other lawn look like it's still waiting for a wake-up call. Look for the sign of a winner. Big League Lawns. Now, it's your turn. Level the playing field and get the results your home deserves. Go home to a Big League Lawn.
Are mosquitoes still ruining your nights? The kids are finally outside, the string lights are glowing, and the swatting starts. Don't let mosquitoes steal your summer. Call Skeeter Eater, a Utah company built for backyards like yours. Our family-friendly treatments and smart mosquito traps keep the fun going long after sunset. Fewer bites, happier nights, and peace of mind that lasts all season. Book now and get $40 off your first treatment at SkeeterEater.com. Skeeter Eater. Stop the bites. Start the fun.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-292-4541 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-292-4541. That's 800-292-4541. What do you have to lose? Call 800-292-4541. Again, 800-292-4541.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big on construction loans at UCCU. Here's Ricky Meese.
We've had an accident in Davis County, southbound I-15 near 5th South in Bountiful, but traffic is getting through the area just fine. And for those traveling the Salt Lake County freeways, no delays. You're looking at good speeds on all your freeways and problem-free on your main secondaries. Support new missionaries with gifts from Deseret Book. Choose from a wide selection of temple and missionary bags and favorite styles, sizes, and colors that combine sleek looks and optimal functionality at DeseretBook.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today's high is going to be 56 with a 60% chance of rain before it breaks into the 60s tomorrow and then climbs through the 70s from Wednesday to Friday. Saturday and Sunday, it's finally going to hit the 80s. Right now, though, it's 46 and showery downtown. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So some of the countries of Northern Europe, especially Scandinavian countries, have been known for a long time for high taxes and high rates of government services. But places like Sweden are now maybe moving further to the right.
Yeah, and I was interested in an article published in the Deseret News. This was written by Jay Evenson, the opinion editor of the news, titled Sweden No Longer the Darling of the Left. And so we thought, after reading that, we should bring Jay in and talk to us about this. Jay, thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for being here in person.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you, because I introduced you as an expert on Sweden, so tell our listeners why you are an expert on Sweden.
Well, I served a church mission over there, and my mother was Norwegian, and so I spent a lot of my youth growing up in Norway. And I married, my wife is born in Sweden, and she has a lot of ties there. And so we travel back there a couple of times a year, or at least once a year. And so I kind of know a lot about Sweden, and I talk to people who live there and kind of have a sort of my finger on the pulse. And it's interesting to watch it change. When I was there back in the 70s, people were pretty proud of the cradle-to-grave type of democratic socialism that they had. Today, it's changing. The Wall Street Journal just had a big piece on how Sweden's embracing capitalism. And it's interesting to look at some of this. Nearly half of their primary health care clinics are now privately owned. That's always been sort of the pillar of their socialism, was their health care system. About a third of their high schools are privately run and are listed on their stock exchange. The tax rate, the maximum income tax rate, has gone from about 90% in the 1980s to about 50% now, which is still high compared to what we have, but that's opened up a lot of money for investment, and there are a lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurism going on there that wasn't before. It's becoming a much more vibrant economy than it ever was.
And are the political leaders seemingly on board with this, or is this something that a wave that's happening that we should continue to watch and continue to progress?
There's always debates back and forth, but Sweden went through an economic crisis back in the 90s, and it sort of became evident to everyone on the left and the right that this experiment they had been running was not working, and they kind of made a mutual agreement to move away from it. Now, the level at which to move away from it, and some on the left are complaining that the poorer people are suffering because of this. And in some of the immigrant areas of the large cities, there's been some gang violence and problems because people feel they don't have the opportunities, they don't have the government services that they used to have. And I think that's going to be natural in any country that tries to pare back its public spending and move toward more of a capitalist society.
Can you talk a little bit more about the schools being privately owned? Because we mostly don't have that here either.
Right, and in Sweden, anyone I believe can start a school. They have to register with the state and provide a reason for starting the school, and then they receive funding. The students receive funding for going to those schools, just as they would to any regular public school. So it's a very competitive system. It's almost kind of like what Utah's trying to do with its quasi-voucher program here. But it seems to work over there. Their education scores tend to be much higher than ours. And that part of their sort of capitalist revolution, I haven't heard a lot of complaining about.
It's interesting you talked about healthcare, because I think of those Scandinavian countries as having great access to healthcare, more liberal access to healthcare. But you're saying some of these clinics are now privately owned, and doctors maybe want to start making some more money.
Right, and these are the healthcare clinics. Now, the hospitals, as I understand it, are still very much publicly run, and you still have a lot of public benefits that come through healthcare. My wife's uncle passed away a couple of years ago, and we visited him before he died, and he had around-the-clock care. Somebody would come every 2 hours and would feed him and bathe him and make sure he got up and got dressed, make sure he got to bed. And that cost him very little out of pocket. I mean, we're talking like $10, $15 a month. It was
it
was very little. So they still offer a lot of those services, but when your primary clinics are now privatized, and there's a lot of private research going on. The Wall Street Journal piece pointed out using AI and other things that is still, they've always been world leaders in medicine, and they're still in that position.
So IKEA is Swedish, is it not?
Yes.
But are they still based in Sweden, or did they leave?
They left during the. It was well known when I was there back in the 70s that anyone who got rich left the country because they didn't want to pay the taxes. Björn Borg, the great tennis player, left. ABBA left. Anybody who made it big left the country. And IKEA left. I don't know if they're back headquartered there or not, but there are a lot of startups that are growing large, and Ericsson Phone and some other big companies over there. But with the high tax rates, it's an incentive to go elsewhere. And I think we're seeing that in this country as the states compete with each other. And there are a lot of wealthy people, for example, moving to Florida because they see a lot more advantages for their money there than New York, for example.
Is this exodus, Jay, of wealthy individuals and wealthy companies part of the reason you said at the outset that the experiment, the democratic socialism experiment, didn't work or hasn't worked, or the reason why we're sort of taking a look back on that, or are there other factors?
No, I think that is one huge factor. The welfare state always required a great deal of input monetarily from the people that it served. And there's only so much money you can take from people who aren't wealthy. And so it kind of collapsed on itself a bit, kind of like our Social Security system is in big trouble right now. And they reformed a lot to try to keep those kinds of programs solvent, but it became evident that what they really needed was more jobs and more high-paying jobs, and so reducing taxes on the wealthy helped to produce some of that.
So where do you see this going potentially? I mean, you've been able to observe Sweden for decades now. Do you think this is going to last? Is it going to continue to shift towards capitalism? What do you think?
It's hard to predict. Sweden's economy is predicted to grow at about 2% a year until 2030, which is about what the United States is projected to grow. But that's much higher and much faster than, say, France or Germany or most other European countries. If it plays out the way that I think it will, you're going to see a lot of investment in Sweden, and other countries may look at that and say we need to follow that example. If the programs for the poor dwindle too much and there is too much unrest and maybe a rise in the politics that wants to speak and advocate on behalf of those people, it could pare back a little bit. Sweden is embracing capitalism, but it's not yet quite to the extent that the United States is. And maybe they find a happy equilibrium somewhere between. It remains to be seen.
Jay, we've only got about a minute left, but I'm wondering about other countries in the regions like Norway, Denmark. Are they similar to Sweden, or do they have completely different economic structures?
Yeah, Norway's always relied on the oil that they discovered off their coast several years ago. They are one of the few countries in the world that still has a wealth tax. And so it's a little different dynamic there. Denmark, I'm not that familiar with how they're doing, but neither one of those seem to be on the same course as Sweden.
All right.
Well, there you go. Well, thanks for joining us. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that economy as being so socialistic, but I always think of those countries as being a great place to live, a great place to accumulate wealth, but maybe not so much.
Well, great government services,
Yeah.
right?
Well, when we come back
trade-off.
after the break, Holly, you just broke my heart this weekend with some photographs that you took that were just so powerful. Looking forward to some wedding bells. Your son just got engaged. Those are the cutest pictures I've ever seen. We're going to talk about engagements after the break.
Usually when something sounds way too good to be true, it is. Imagine someone saying you can cut your mobile bill in half. Sounds like a fantasy, but with Xfinity Mobile, it's the real deal. Because when you have Xfinity Internet, you can cut your mobile bill in half, plus try Xfinity Mobile free for a year. No commitment. That's a lot of streaming, sharing, scrolling, whatever else you can do with your phone, all for half the price and none of the commitment. That means you'll save big over Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. Wild. Now all you have to do is think about how you'll spend all that extra money. Call 1-800-XFINITY, go to XfinityMobile.com, or visit your local Xfinity store to switch today. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Savings compare one line of Xfinity Mobile Select to comparable plans from T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T as of 3/24/26. Taxes, fees, extra. $30 monthly discount limited to new mobile customers only after 12 months. Regular rates apply. Go to xfinitymobile.com.
Sign up for KSL Text Alerts. Get breaking news and traffic updates by texting the word news to 57500. Want access to exclusive contests? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking jazz updates. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to Markdowns for Miles at AutoZone.
Thanks. Is oil marked down?
Save up to $15 when you buy 5 quarts and a filter.
And fuel treatment?
2 for $9 on Lucas.
Brake pads?
Marked down to free.
Free?
Get free Duralast brake pads when you buy 2 Duralast rotors.
That's several markdowns.
For many more miles.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment? That's a lie. Most timeshares can be bought online for $1. To find out what your timeshare is worth and to cancel it, call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit kit free with all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free exit info guide. 800-771-1300. That's 800-771-1300.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The National Forest Foundation, or NFF, partners with the U.S. Forest Service working across 193 million acres to reduce wildfire risk, restore watersheds, and expand outdoor access. Utah Program Coordinator Matthew Podolinsky joins us with more.
Utah is home to more than 8 million acres of national forest land, public lands that help define the state. In partnership with the Forest Service, the National Forest Foundation is leading a variety of projects on these landscapes. Utah's outdoor recreation economy is a $10 billion powerhouse supporting over 75,000 jobs. That economic development depends on well-maintained, accessible public land. Alongside our partners, the National Forest Foundation is modernizing aging infrastructure by restoring campgrounds and trails to improve access and elevate the outdoor experience across the state. But in Utah, this work goes beyond recreation. It's also about water. From restoring streams and floodplains to revitalizing wetlands, these efforts help secure reliable water sources for communities while supporting wildlife and biodiversity. The National Forest Foundation's work turns a shared love of outdoors into meaningful action, ensuring Utah's national forests remain healthy, resilient, and accessible for generations to come. Learn more at nationalforest.org.
Through restoration and conservation efforts, the National Forest Foundation helps keep Utah's mountains healthy and accessible, making it easier for people to safely enjoy outdoor recreation and experience the state's natural landscapes. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
If you've got a honey-do list with electrical, plumbing, heating, or air conditioning projects on it, Any Hour Services can help. Call Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air. anyhourservices.com.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a gripping new 9-part investigative podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of, Warren Forrest, a sadistic predator who prowled the Pacific Northwest in the early 70s. He hid behind the deeds of Ted Bundy, and he's only been convicted of 2 murders, but is suspected of many more. Since the release of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a witness identified in the podcast could lead investigators to the remains of Jamie Grissom.
He ran into the woods. He said he stumbled. As he fell down, he looks up and sees the body of a young woman.
And now the FBI is testing forensic evidence that had been collecting dust for decades. This cold case is now red hot. Binge the entire season of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest breaking news.
Well, we have some breaking news. A lawsuit filed some time ago by Elon Musk against Sam Altman for his OpenAI platform. Musk was an early investor in that, has been adjudicated. The jury said that apparently Elon Musk waited too long to file the lawsuit, and he lost his lawsuit against OpenAI. I was following this over the weekend because the jury was deliberating. I didn't expect, I don't think anyone did, that the verdict would come back so quickly, but it came back against Elon Musk, who was the plaintiff. He was the one that filed the lawsuit.
Right. And look, this was a big thing because both sides were accusing the other of being more interested in money than serving the public. In fact, in closing arguments, Elon Musk's attorney reminded jurors that several witnesses had questioned Altman. And so he was basically saying, if you don't believe Altman, they can't win. And then Musk accused OpenAI of wrongfully trying to enrich investors. OpenAI countered that it was Musk who saw dollar signs. But in any case, they have come back with their decision, of course, unanimously. And Elon Musk has lost this lawsuit.
Yeah, we may follow up on that a little bit tomorrow as we get more details about it. A little bit of an unexpected ruling, but a significant ruling, I think, in the long run.
Okay, so we do have some exciting news from our household this weekend.
Yes, you do.
We do. So my son got engaged on Friday evening. It was very cute. They've been dating for about 3 years. And one of the things that was interesting, and of course we were totally happy to participate, but he had family, not everybody, but both parents were there, and we were like hiding until he popped the question, and then we could pop out and say congratulations. But my daughter, who is super artistic, she designed like the whole setup, and it was in the back of his pickup, and it had like this fancy sparkling cider, and it had this fruit layout, and it had a bunch of flowers, and it had a sign that said, "Will you marry me?" I mean, it was very elaborate and very cute. And she took the photos that you
was
saw.
Cute. I said earlier, it broke my heart. It just tore up my heart. The bride's bride-to-be reaction was just
I know.
touching.
She cried.
She
cried. And my son had friends who were like razzing him. What if she says no? And I'm like, my dudes.
Yeah.
She's been begging him to propose for like a year and a half.
Good. So she wasn't like she hesitated and said, well, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So what was interesting, so my daughter took these photos. They're really great. She's a professional photographer in addition to being a junior high teacher. But she took 243 photos that she shared with the family. And I'm like, that seems like a lot. Yeah. So my engagement story was not that exciting. So my husband, a couple of days before I turned 21, he started a conversation this way. I'm not saying we were going to get married, but if we were going to get married, how would we arrange like finances and stuff? And then like we talked for like 3 hours, and then he's like, it's not official. And I said, well, is it official enough I can tell my mom?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, you can tell your mom, but I'll propose on your birthday. And then he almost forgot on my birthday. So,
well, that's romantic, but I don't know.
Not that romantic. So tell me about yours.
Which one?
Rebecca.
No, okay, yes, because I've had several engagements, but yeah.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, I didn't need to add that. Well, I'll be quick, but she was anxious. She wanted to get married, and I gave her a little, I guess you'd call it a promise ring, a little thing with a pearl on it, and just said, "Hey, this tells you that I'm here, and I'm just not quite ready." She was disappointed, and the pearl fell off one day, so I took it to the jeweler to get fixed, and it was my 50th birthday, and I had the ring in the case that the pearl ring was in. I'm making this a story confusing. And she opened up thinking that I'd fixed her pearl, and it was an engagement ring. And she was like completely surprised. It was a fun event, and I've never looked back from that. That was the smartest thing I ever did.
So very fun. Look, it's just fun, and I don't care how they get engaged. It's just fun, and so I have given them advice that I gave my other kids, but they mostly ignored me. But the advice is this. You're the only ones who are going to remember the wedding day and reception in 20 years. So make it fun for you.
Yep.
You don't have to have a line if you don't want to do a line. You can do dancing, but you don't have to do dancing.
Right.
Like there's all these different ways to do it. My son served a church mission to Hawaii. So I told him, I said, you can do a luau and have a haka, right? You guys get to decide. And they're like, thank you so much for your feedback. So we'll see.
Thanks. We'll do what we want. Just
yeah, exactly.
Have the checkbook ready.
That's exactly right. So, yeah. So I do have to say this is May 18th, and today is actually National No Dirty Dishes Day. I may print a sign and put it above the sink so that my adult kids who live with me can maybe get the hint.
Who does them at your house?
Me.
Yeah, I always put them away.
Still.
I always empty the dishwasher in the morning. That's my job. One of my jobs.
Okay. So also, I have a couple of other fun facts about the state, and one of them I hope you might have some information about. It was on this day in 1896 that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Plessy v. Ferguson that separate but equal accommodations were actually constitutional, and that remained the case until Brown v. Board of Education happened almost 50 years later.
Almost to the day. So Plessy v. Ferguson, a 7-1 vote by the Supreme Court that separate but equal accommodations did not violate the 14th Amendment due process rights, equal protection rights, which seems absurd to me.
Right.
Separate but equal. It lasted until May 17th.
So close.
1954, just one day, yesterday would have been the anniversary of that, where Brown versus Board of Education, the Supreme Court unanimously, so 7-1 vote the first time, 9-0 the second time, they said that racial segregation in public schools is unconstitutional, and so it basically did away with Plessy versus Ferguson.
So remind our listeners that the separate but equal was a policy that said as long as you can offer quote unquote equal opportunities, you can segregate.
Right.
And it wasn't just schools, was it? Was that also with like drinking fountains?
Generally segregation, as long as neither party was suffered from the segregation. Yeah. So that's what separate but equal means. It was ridiculous.
Boo.
Yes.
It was on this date in 1971, by the way, that President Richard Nixon rejected 60 demands of the Congressional Black Caucus. It was also on this day in 1980 that Mount St. Helens erupted. So I was not living in Washington at the time, but my dad's extended family lives up there, and I still remember seeing the photographs of them shoveling ash like it were snow, like it was giant snowfall. So
it was on this day in 1980.
Yeah,
I had a friend who was going to law school in that area. He and I went to high school and college together, and he went to law school, and we were both in law school at the time. He said it was incredible. I mean, it was like the sky just...
It was incredible, yeah.
Got dark, and then the ash that came down in the area was just horrific.
All right. Give us your closing arguments.
Well, I'm troubled by something, and I decided to pivot a little bit, but this announcement by the Trump administration to create a $1.7 billion fund to compensate allies of the president who he believes were mistreated by the Biden administration. And again, I did disclose that one of these potential beneficiaries may have been a client of mine involved in the January 6th insurrection. But it's not something we typically do in this country when a person pleads guilty or is convicted of a crime. I'm not talking about they fought it and they won and they were proved to be innocent, the innocence part, the pardon part, because when a president or governor or whoever pardons someone, it's not because they didn't commit the act. It's that other factors have occurred in the meantime that they should be excused from that act. That doesn't necessarily mean they should also be paid for having to suffer through that act. You just don't expect that, especially to the tune of $1.7 billion. Now, I appreciate the president saying, I'll step away from my lawsuit against the IRS and saying, I'm not going to pursue that anymore. They disclosed my tax returns. They probably shouldn't have done that. I sued them. I'm going to let it go. But there was a quid pro quo that is troubling to me personally, and that is this $1.7 billion fund, because we're talking about the January 6th insurrectionists. We're talking about payoffs of supporters in the Trump-Russia investigation, people that were prosecuted or investigated that were as his perceived that were perceived adversaries of Biden. I mean, it all comes back to Biden did it, and whatever. But it just, I don't know why this one bothers me. I didn't expect it today when I saw that, especially $1.7 billion. I mean, $200 million. I don't know. I guess you could sort of live with that, but we're talking just. I can't even think how many people there are. Anyway, I'm rambling. Utah's Noon News is going to have much more on President Trump's settlement over his legal